Good morning, traders. Welcome back. It's another week in the market. And wouldn't you know it, Trump coming in and saying we are stopping this market down move as the market reacts with Trump's Bitcoin reserve news. And you could say it overall cryptocurrency, but we all know Bitcoin's the main game here. And I'm taking a shot already, guys, and having some trades on. We'll talk a little bit about the playbook. We'll talk about a trade that I'm in right now. I have two trades on. I have two kind of Bitcoin related trades. So I'm trying to manage one of them, which is in the funded account. That's on a smaller name. I want to bring you guys into it, tell you guys a little bit about both of these trades. First one up is the big trade. The big trade on I have right now is in BTCT. Let's go to that first, and then we'll get to today's playbook action. Of course, you guys know Money Mitch starting it early here. BTCT, guys, you guys can see where I got in right here. I don't keep it out, guys. And you guys can see I've been adding to this. I can add a little bit more if I wanted to, but really looking for the break of the 530. I've been up about 130, 200. Trying my best not to get greedy here, but it just has a nice little setup here. Now I got to go looking at my other trade here that is something that I really need to kind of protect, which is, of course, the funded account. And you guys know I've been pushing hard in this account, had a great week last week, and this week, this one's a tough one, guys. A little part of me thinks I should have just maybe covered and taken the break even on this one. Could lose about 50 or 60 on this one. Definitely don't want to lose more than 60. Got to be careful here. UPXI, guys, this thing's moving all around. It has an interesting looking pattern. I think it could come back and make a break for 4. But the only concern here is that it keeps coming back here towards this 330, 340 area. So it needs to bounce right here. If not, if it breaks towards the 337s and 336 and starts actually closing some size there, I need to get out here. Got to be careful here. You can see it right there, 336 on the bid. 370 on the offer there. So the spread is super wide. I got caught in this one on the first pullback. I always keep it fully transparent with you guys. Glad I only went with 100 share size. Trying to work my way out of this UPXI, and it did pop up for just a slight second here at 4. I was kind of getting ready for the show here. That was at 8:26 right before it here. So if you guys see me a minute or two late, I was trying to manage this and see what happens with that. Now I just need to see what happens here now. Can we recover the 350s and start heading back towards the 4? If we could get back to 4, I could see this getting to 5. So that's where I just got to keep in mind here. Stay to the game, right? I'm risking about 60 cents, so I'd need to make a really good amount for it to come back here. This is when I sometimes start to manage it. Even if it get a pop back, I might be taking some size off to manage if it comes back down. We'll see what happens. Like always, traders, number one focus is not to get wrecked, especially on your first trade on Monday. It can cost you a lot in your mental capital. But hey, at least with the sizing that we're in right now, it's not going to be a disaster. It just needs to be something that we kind of keep managing here, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring up my main charts in a second. We'll take a look at different stocks out there moving. We got a lot to talk about in the action out there. BTCT finally starting to get a little bit of a lift. You guys will see. I'll bring up the scanners and things like that. We can talk a little bit more about what's going on out there. Let me actually get towards my scanner, seeing if I'm seeing any other small name that's making a move. Acon is the one right now getting the lift here. And so a lot of times you can be on the wrong name. For me, I'm probably on the wrong name right now. This one looking good here. Acon just broke through the 650s. I like how it recovered the $6 spot there. So now I'd be looking for pullbacks to 640s or 650s here. Looks pretty good. We just got a pullback into the 657. Let's see if we can get a 650 pullback on this Acon, and then it starts to make the lift. This is more of my style of trade, right? Reacting to the pattern there. And this is one that has the volume. That's the difference between the one that I'm in and this one. If I can tell you guys what I did right and wrong, I'm always going to tell you guys, in my eyes, this one has the volume and the one that I'm in does not. And so that's going to cost me a little bit here. We'll see what happens. And why? Because it's trading there, 6.8 million shares here. So Acon really not looking too bad. I like also how it held the kind of breakout there and held that 550 pullback on the first action, ripped back up, reloaded there multiple times towards the 6, now almost to the 7. We'll see what happens here on ACON. Let's get back to my play here and see if we can actually get a little bit of some lift here. You can see how the offer spreads out on this one. And I'm looking at the BTCT, guys. I might have to come in and take some profits there in a second. If I could get a break to 540, I don't mind taking some profits there. Been trying my best to hang in there on that play and take a good trade here, taking a step up, right? And that's what you got to do sometimes when you feel you got the gas pedal. We got to get to the gas pedal. Of course, you guys can see the scanners that I'm using. I'm rocking with some Benzinga Pro action here. Acon right on the top of the leader list. BTCT right behind that. And I'm also seeing a lot of these Bitcoin names show up. Of course, Mara now starting to take a lead there. And I think we can take a look at all the Bitcoin names. That's why I was ready. I was ready even on the weekend when I heard the news of the Trump mentions. And I should have maybe taken my first crypto trade. I will tell you guys that a little bit of a hesitation on my first crypto trade. Could have taken Cardano and made like 20 cents, but it would have been 20% because the stock is less than $1. Could have bought that at about 80 cents. So I'm looking more and more to dip my toes into that, looking into even the futures action. Look for conversations with, of course, the Fivers team. You guys know a parent company, of course, and you guys can take a look into the future action, maybe take a look into trading futures, right? And this could help you trading the overnight action, the 24-hour market, right? Well, we'll see what happens. There's a pop, guys. This is what I was looking for. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen before I take the profits. I want to show you guys this here. We're getting a nice little pop in BTCT. Got to be able to take some profits here. Let me go ahead and try to get some in here. All right, guys, just took some out there, guys, at the 538s there. So paying myself really well there, guys. There you guys see it. Nice little payment. I took half of it off there. Now we're really lifting here towards the 550s. Let's see if we can get above the 550s here. If I can get above the 550s, I don't mind selling it all out and just taking the gains here. Let's see if I can set up here for the 550s. Got 1100 still there. Let's go ahead. I'm going to throw it out right now to see if we just get a quick pop into the 550s here. 544 on the offer. Got to look into the level 2 here to see where the sizing is. You can see there's not much sizing in the 50s. So there's just a little bit. We could pop straight towards the 70s here. I'm going to actually lift it up here, see if we can get a little bit of a pop, a little bit higher than the 50s, and then just take it off the bid. So the key here is I'm watching the bid action where you see that 537 right now. So that's that light blue line, right? So I'm watching that action. I want to take profits off of that. That's where I took it on this, the 538s. Let's see if we can finally get the pop above the 540s. Definitely wouldn't let this trade go back into the red. Just trying to take some more green here and paying myself a little bit here. I'll show you guys the filled orders there. Let's take a look here. You guys can see already a 224 cushion there. So not looking too bad to start today. Getting to the point where I'm going to look for that little lift here towards the 550s. Probably take out even a little bit more there. Let's take out like about 600 at the 550 spot if we can get it here, or 545, something like that. Don't need to be picky there. Could get just a little bit above the 540s here and see if we can get it. Of course, there was some big sizing to get filled at the 40s. So looking at that spot as a potential liftoff spot. So let's see what happens there. 540s kind of hanging in there, looking for that next lift there, and continuing, of course, to look at my UPXI, which isn't doing well, guys. I think that one's, I'm just going to have to take the $60 loss, and that's how it goes sometimes. And it's okay because I'm got to take some losses sometimes. You got to take the hits when you can get them, right? Here's the 544 on the offer. So I'm putting out 545 here to try to get half of it out right at the top on the offer. And then it go through the 550s going towards the 570s here. I'm going to take that order off there as I don't want that order to fill, of course, was 1,100 shares. Putting out the limit there at the 45s. You can see we went down on the bid now towards 522. That's not good action. I'm still looking at this Acon too. That's doing pretty well. Just pulled back there. And kind of holding in right above the 650s. We'll see if that Acon goes higher. All right, not a bad little action there. Mr. Futures Trader. What's up out there, guys? It's good to see you guys. Some new people in the chat. Say hello if you're new to the show. It's good to see you guys out there. Let's keep it going. Let's take a look at what else we can get into today. But really good trade to start it off with BTCT, guys. So let me see if I can get a little bit more out here. Take some cash. I'm even going to raise this up a little bit here. You guys see me playing with it a little bit, raising the limit. And I love this, right? Right there on Trade the Pool, we can trade right on the chart. And you guys see it all, right? That's the important thing I want you guys to also notice is that, we don't hide things. I don't hide things here. So if you're watching in, you're tuning in, get it all right here live, guys. All right, looking at the scanners, seeing if there's anything else making a move here. I'm seeing some smaller names make a move, like a MKTW. So small name there, market cap not really that big, volume not doing too bad there. BITX is another Bitcoin name doing pretty decent there, so keep your eyes on that one. BTCT, let's see what's going on in the MACD. The MACD just crossed right back down as we got to rip up from this area. So now at this point, won't let it get back there towards the 519s on the bid. Offer for me is at more the 528. So just be careful here to see what happens here. Spreading out for sure. All right, we'll see what happens. Can we get a little bit more lift here? I'm going to cancel out my sell, get ready to get out of the whole thing if I need to here on the pullback. All right, guys, we'll have that set up here. Going to continue to work here. Got to watch other stocks. Got to get to the playbook action. So I'm going to try to keep my eye on this on the sideline here and just keep working. We'll see what happens there. Let's get to my main chart action. Of course, you guys know how it is, trading and at the same time covering the market. Nothing like it, guys. So definitely, if you guys are ever interested in doing this for yourself, want to join the team, hey, reach out to us. We're always looking for new traders to join the team. There's BTCT starting to make a little pop there back towards the 530s on the bid, 544s on the offer. Let's see if we can get through that 540s, going up to the 560s, 580s. It could rip to $6 here. So I'm giving myself a shot to make some good money. We'll see what happens there in BTCT. All right, let's get back to the action. Let's go to, of course, the playbook this morning. This is where I give you guys some stock, some trade ideas every single day. The idea for this is to show you guys that you got to have a playbook every day, bring some variables, looking into the technicals, the story, what's going on out there. Let's see what happens in today's playbook. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring up a stock here. First stock I want to take a look at today is going to actually be an interesting one. What about taking a look at the Intel today? This is one of my top plays, and I'm watching for it. This morning, we were in this nice little flagging pattern, and it already getting a little lift out of that flagging pattern. So we'll see what happens here as we start to pull back there. You guys can clearly see that flag right there. I'll draw my lines a little bit bigger here so that you guys can see that. But there you guys see it. It broke back above that. We could get a dip back towards the 25 for a throwback look, but we're looking good here. And main thing for me is the daily levels that we start to run into. This 25.50 looks really good, even on the weekly 25.50s and the monthly. And so whenever we have this confluence where it's daily, weekly, monthly, all adding up, I think this is very important to watch. This could be a big changing move here for Intel. And we did get a catalyst today. And I think that's another important thing. Always looking to see that you also have a catalyst with the name could definitely help you continue to see the lift. So we'll see what happens here, and definitely going to react to see what happens as NVIDIA and Broadcom testing Intel's advanced processes. So, hey, whenever you get a mention with NVIDIA and Broadcom in this space, you're looking good here. Intel, definitely one of my top watches of the day today. All right, guys, getting a spike here into the 538s here. So try my best not to be so greedy here with BTCT. So we're going to take another 600 off here in just a second. Just trying to see the bid jump up there to the 540s there. I'll show you guys BTCT as I take the cash here. You can see it right there, 39s now in a second. I should be able to take some cash here towards the 40s. So let's see if I can get that out here, and then look to see if I get a 50 run, right? So I'm looking like a 545s here. If I could get a little bit of a push there. There's 540s. I don't mind taking the 540s action. I'm going to look for like 542. We'll go for 539s here. Just take the cash here. There you go. Boom. Just took another cash there, guys. Now 370 up in the pre-market. on the main account, and this is the eval. So now with this remaining 600, we'll be break even. Just looking for the remainder to run here through the 550s. If it can't get through the 550s, I'll take the cash out towards, let's say, 10 cents higher, 526. Just take that little bit. We'll see what happens there. Not a bad move here. BTCT looking for more. Looking for more, guys. Acon still hanging in there, and BTCT actually going up for the high there. So I think if anything, maybe I should have just been on these Bitcoin plays in my funded account and taken this shot this morning with, 100, 200 shares. Wouldn't have been too bad. But hey, we'll see what happens with that one and what happens with UPXI. Let's keep it going in the playbook. Let's go over now to XLF as we take a look at this one. And I'm watching this one already make a leap. And I've been talking about this one even when we were on the pullback last week. And I was looking at XLF showing the strength that this continued during the pullback of the overall market. This is why it's so important to understand relative strength, right? So there's a lot of relative strength here in the financials. And I'm going to look for the leaders to take the lead and keep the push going there. Of course, you guys can see the positions here also. I'm going to slide this to the left so you can see my other position too, guys. And there you guys see it. It's not always all green. I'm going to always keep it fully transparent for you guys. You guys see that at the bottom there. All right, let's keep it going. Let's see what else we got here. And I can even move this over this so don't have to kind of see that on the bottom there. There you go. All right, guys, let's keep it going. XLF is my second pick. Let's go to the third pick here. Let's talk about RXRX, as I saw genomic stocks make a really strong move recently. And this one has been a favorite, and it's pulled back now, and it's giving an ability to come back towards weekly resistance and daily resistance. And so this starts to become support. It actually made an attempt towards the support and broke back out from that. So I'm looking for a clear of 8 and to start working back there towards 10. If this is going to be a stock that comes really quickly back towards those 12s, it's going to be a fast move, right? And so what I'm looking is similar to like how it was here in January, right? So it got the quick lift into the beginning of January, came back all the way back down, and the second rip was actually higher going into March. So we'll see what happens here. RXRX, can we get another lift here? Definitely on the radar today, this morning, just going sideways. Would like to see an attempt to 750 and then a move back through 8, but we'll have to wait and find out. All right, guys, BTCT struggling in the 540s to get to the 550s. And now I'm seeing a little bit of some buying setting up there at the 531s. But if it can't get back towards the 550s pretty soon, probably just going to take the money and run, and then reestablished at the open. All right, guys, let's keep it moving, guys. What's up out there, traders? How we doing? What are you looking at, guys? Coinbase, MSTRs are popping. Are you looking at them? Hell yeah, I'm looking at them, Alexander. I think those are some of my top charts also. Let's take a look at some of the action out there. We'll get out of the playbook, but there's still more to look at, right? Like Coin is definitely one that I like the chart, guys. I love the daily chart. I was already watching for this to do kind of an undercut and rally style trade where the volume was starting to pile in. And there's a reason why, I think. So now you got to look for pullbacks, but it's very hard to play these pullbacks. I think what you got to be looking at is hourly attempts to the support and recoveries. Right now, the hourly support around 233. We've gone to 233.60. So we need to look towards a move towards that 233, and then a recovery at the open is what I'd be looking for. So we'll fake out to the downside, watch the early bulls, then look for the move. That's a lot of the stock action that I'm looking for. And I talk about this all the time, even on my Twitter, guys. If you guys don't have my Twitter, well, you might be missing out on this morning's post and other posts. Like always, guys, you guys can follow us on Twitter, not just, of course, Trade the Pool. Of course, we got Trade the Pool. We'll give you guys that link. But of course, follow MoneyMitch_TTP. This is where you guys might be able to get some good action. So I'm going to throw up the link here. And then I'm also throwing up our link for Trade the Pool. If you guys don't follow our X profile already, well, you're missing out. And you can always retweet our stream every single morning to get more traders in here so that we can, of course, continue growing, guys. So I'm going to hit the retweet. I'll be the first one here. Do me the favor. If you're tuning in right now, click that link and hit the repost. Or if you can do one even more solid, hit the quotes. Also, let everybody know this is the place to be. You want to continue to grow and take great trades in the pre-market like BTCT, right? All right, let's continue out here. We'll see what else we can run up with. But this morning, I did talk about what would I expect towards the open, right? So what I'm going to look for is, of course, kind of that throwback look back to the resistance. The volume's there, of course, for for it to break. But what I'm looking for, of course, at the open here is momentum into the open, then potential wash to clear the books. So let's see if we can get that action towards the open today. And we'll look to see if we get some downside action out the gates here. I think it's just too much bullishness that's coming in really quickly. So there's two things that can happen. They either lift off move or wash them and then lift off. So still looking at bullish action today, but I do think there could be some traps here. And we'll see, guys. This UPXI, I'm still keeping in it right now just because of what the pattern's doing, but it isn't looking good for me, guys. So I'll be taking a look to see if I can get any spot up here on this UPXI. If not, just going to go ahead and just get out here. Got to protect myself, especially as I get closer and closer towards the open. All right, guys, it's 8:56, not even 9 a.m. Michael Noss will be here just in a little bit, guys. Let's keep it going. Good morning. All be careful on longs. Yeah, Vic, I think that's the important thing. I agree that you got to be careful. I just think as a day trader, one of the things that you got to be able to do is be flexible. So even though you were very bearish last week, you could be very bullish early on this week, right? I think that's the hardest thing of a day trader is to get too stuck on what the kind of the overall macro situation is and to think that that's going to continue to play. Remember that the market likes to hurt where it can hurt the most. And for a second there, what happened? The most was bearish, at least retail wise, and institutionals started to turn, right? We'll talk a little bit about this with Michael Noss, but I think that the important part you watch for now is to see if the longs come back in, because one thing's for certain, if the longs want to come back in, I think it'll be a quick move up versus a slow move up. We'll see what happens and to see if we get a little bit of some wash out the gates. Seeing more and more of you guys tuning in now on X. I think the retweet helps. So if you guys can do that for me, I definitely appreciate it. And if you guys appreciate me showing you guys everything from the entrance to the filled orders, hit that like button on YouTube and hit the likes on X. All right, guys, still watching this BTCT. It's just playing around and flirting with this 540s and 527 on the bid. So going to take a look at BTCT. We'll go to stocks that you guys want to watch. We got the Sunrise report. There's not much out there, so I'm going to really quickly run through some of that. I'm just taking a peek here at BTCT, and what do I want to see? Well, I want to go to a deeper time frame, like a 15-minute chart, right? And I just want to see if the MACD can cross again. If the MACD can cross again, we're looking good. But if it pulls back, let's say below the 5 and attempts to go back to 460s, we don't want anything to do with that, right? So I'm at the point where I'm almost ready just to take the cash and run. And to tell you the truth, with me being up 370 here, I think I just got to take it and run here. So I'm going to do the same here. You guys, like always, determine what you guys want to do. In my eyes, I feel like this is me starting to get a little bit greedy. And when I start getting a little greedy, I just got to take it and run. I could keep a little piece on to see if it makes a bigger move out the gates, but I'm going to do the opposite here. I'm just going to take the money and run, guys. Boom, took the money and run at 529. That gives me a nice little profit there of 432 for the open here, guys. So before the open, giving myself that kind of cushion, not bad, right? Ooh, look, I still got a little bit there. I actually went a little bit too far. I actually shorted it a little bit there. Let's take that cash back. Did 100 shares a little too much there? So let's go ahead, 100 shares back here. I might lose some money on this now. All right, offers at 540s. Can't let it start ripping on me here. I'm just going to take it out here. Just waiting for the 30 seconds there. Boom, out there, guys. So took a little bit of hit, $10 hit for doing a mistake order there, but not gonna shy away from it. Always gonna tell you guys how it is, right? So good trade there on BTCT to start the day, guys. Not a bad trade at all. I'll show you guys the cash, as you guys know, fully transparent as always. Let's show you guys that. Right here, BTCT, nice cash, 421 to start the day, guys. So you guys can even see the mistake order there. I don't hide it. I don't hide anything at all, guys. I tell you guys exactly how it is. First profits 235, 146, then 61. And a part of that is taking the cash, right? Because when I'm taking the partials, I'm giving myself the chance for the stock to keep running. But another thing is, if the stock doesn't keep running, taking the money and run. And not a bad stock overall. If you take a look at it, it's actually the leading pre-market stock right now. And this is what I try to do all the time, guys. Try to play those plays. And my biggest thing, and I think this is also for the gurus out there. The gurus are looking for what? And I can tell you guys, they're looking for something like this that has 5.7 million shares, or at least a million shares traded. Sometimes they'll trade something like this that has 650,000. But the biggest thing that happens there is the liquidity issues that can happen with a stock like that. So especially ones that are near the pennies, that's not going to be something they touch. Where's their sweet spot? Their sweet spot is between kind of $3 and $9. So there could be stocks that are up there around 8 or 7, like your Acon this morning. But also you can take a look at a stock like this, right? Which is BTCT near that $5, right? $5, $6, right? So anywhere between kind of 3 to 6 is even better on the sweet spot. They can easily get 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 shares, and that's what they're looking to do. We'll see what happens with BTCT. It could continue to run today, but I've already taken a good portion of the cash, and sometimes that's what it's about also, just making sure that we're paying ourselves. There is one stock, of course, that I am struggling with, which is, of course, my UPXI. I'm just determining if I'm just going to take the money and run. But we'll start the show here. Let's get the countdown going. We got a lot more to talk about. I can really quickly go through the sunrise. We'll do it. We'll just talk about it with Michael Noss. There's really not too much news out there this morning. It's mainly on the crypto news, right? And I've already talked about that, but we can talk about certain coins jumping a little bit more than others. ADA was the one that I wanted to buy because it was the cheapest one of the ones mentioned by Trump. But let's get to it. There's some Chipotle news out there that we'll talk about. And Domino's, you guys in the chat, let me know who loves their stuffed crust, of course, man. I think I definitely am going to be one of those guys. I'm a big stuffed crust guy. Let's find out what Michael Noss is. Is he a stuffed crust kind of guy? Is he a thin crust? Or is he a deep dish kind of Chicago guy? We'll find out, guys. Let's get to the action. Let's see what we got. TTP Live. Let's kick it off. Hugo wants 200, baby. You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. What's going on out there, traders? How we doing? Let's go ahead. Let's bring on the man himself, Michael Noss, where the snow never stops. What's going on, man? How we doing?
Finally, it looks like the snow might be stopping, so I'm doing okay. I love that we live in a world where $300 billion in market caps created in like an hour on a single tweet. It's a great time to be a trader.
Yeah, it just shows you the volatility out there, and it just also shows you that there's not one way, right? There wasn't a strategy that would have got you this money, and I think that's the important thing also, is you got to be nimble, you got to be flexible, you got to take hits sometimes, and you also got to get lucky sometimes, right? I mean, that's just the truth of the matter, right? So if you're positioned long over the weekend, I think this morning you come in patting your back. Now the question is, what happens towards the open? That's what I'm wondering. And we'll kick it to you, Michael. Let's take a look at what you're seeing in the markets. We can talk about some crypto action. I did also mention on the show, I struggled and hesitated to take that trade on ADA. I watched the tweet come out pretty quickly. I was on it probably maybe within 10, 14 minutes of it. And I was thinking about buying that ADA that was it was just breaking when I saw it, the 80-cent mark. And it had just made a pullback to the 70-cent mark. And I was like, this has $1 written all over it. But I mean, it's just not my type, like my cup of tea, my normal type of trading action. So I hesitated a little bit on it. But I thought that there was a lot of trades that could have been made if you're quick to the action here. And that's the interesting part of crypto markets and different markets, right? But also an ability that if you woke up early this morning, you probably also could have made some money on some Bitcoin names. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Let's take a look at different stocks. What are you seeing, Michael?
Yeah, so this is where I went. I just went straight to the king, Bitcoin. It's usually the one
The
I'm going
king
to go
himself,
to.
right?
Right. The way I read those tweets or truths or whatever they're calling them, we don't know the percentage of this. It could be 99% Bitcoin, and then like let's just throw in a bunch of other coins for a hedge or something, right? I could even see, that's an extreme example, but I could see 90% Bitcoin, 10% some of these altcoins. And for me, what I had been looking, and I've been really vocal about that, is okay, now that we broke support, talk about this all the time. If you get back through that support zone very quickly, which is what we did, sometimes you get a lot of people caught on the back foot. And that looks like that's what happened. That's why probably there was so much of a move, is because there was probably a lot of shorts that shorted that breakdown and they got liquidated. That's going to cause it to pop up. So I just added again to my kind of core Bitcoin position I've been holding for many, many moons, and got a pretty decent price there. And not, I would love to say I got the lows, but around 86 or 87,000 on that name. The important thing I think is that leads into the overall market, right? It's very rare that you see, I talk about this all the time, is Bitcoin. I don't even need to see the futures anymore. Usually it's 7 o'clock my time, so I think it's 6 Eastern. The futures open. I open up my phone. I say, okay, are we gapping up, gapping down on the week? Get me a good idea of what's going to be happening going into the open, and don't need to do that anymore, because if Bitcoin's ripping like that, the futures are doing fantastic. So
Yeah.
continues, and been saying this since I started here a couple months ago, is just we are stuck in this range. So if you're getting too bearish at the bottom, you're getting too bullish at the top, you find yourself doing that thing, you got to flip it until one of these breaks. You got to start getting bullish at the bottom, you got to start getting bearish at the top until the market proves you otherwise. So now we're kind of right in the middle of that range. And just smack dab, where's the 50% mark? We're probably smack dab right in the middle of that overall range. So we need to see, yeah, pretty much right there was the high, the 50% move. Until that breaks, we're just looking under the hood to see if there's anything sector wise that makes sense. So one thing that I noticed on the weekend is new all-time closing high, just like think by 2 cents on financials. Not something you generally see in a bearish market, so that's good. And like we've been talking about for a while, XLV had a really good, and this pattern here looks really interesting on XLV, where we're just chopping right near the highs. So those, I think, are some good sectors.
Yeah, I agree. I know that a lot of people are going to be looking at tech this morning, and that's okay, because I can't blame you, right? Like that's just where the bigger stocks are. But I think that the tech sector overall is going to have mixed noise this whole year, where there's going to be certain names that really outperform, and there's going to be names that really struggle, right? So I think the important part here is not trying to put them all in kind of one category, and just really looking into the tech names of what's actually staying strong and what it's not, right? I think that is very vital here. And I think a part of that is, of course, there's certain ones that have huge valuations, really high, right? And some of those need to work their way back. Not saying that they need to fall, collapse, but some of those need to work their way back. While some others could actually see a lift, I think, in their P&E ratios, and looking into seeing that. So one name I'm keeping on the radar, Intel, of course, this morning with news with NVIDIA and Broadcom. How do you see that chart? I know I liked it for the playbook. I think it's so important here. And what I talked about also is that the daily resistance, weekly resistance, and monthly resistance all being in similar areas. So I think that's also an important thing to catch, right? Because now you got multiple style of traders. They're going to be watching near one level.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at this as it's gapping up, but it's rejected 26 before, it's rejected 26 twice now. So it needs to kind of get and shows either some momentum through that or show some strength through that zone. I think that's probably what a lot of people are looking for, is just, hey, can we get to and through this level, because then above, right, you've got the gap fill. So if it can get through that, then maybe into the gap, and maybe it can finally recover. So a big kind of push there. But I did like what you were kind of talking about with, go into that strength. And, I'm a technician, so I don't know anything about price earnings. I don't like mudding up something as beautiful as price with something as subjective as earnings. But I know that price earnings ratio can change in two ways, right? The price comes down or the earnings come up. So either way, that kind of leads to overall digestion, right? So this is just the heat map of what's moving. We have a lot of names, anything that's kind of crypto related is just ripping right now. So that's another sector to keep a look at if you're looking to trade. Take a look at some of these miners, these beat up miners that have had a hard time. I've said it a bunch. I don't think these are names to hold for any length of time. I don't think these crypto miners are something that is a good investment, just because it's such a hard business and they lose so much money. But if Bitcoin's going to rip, some of these names are going to be oversold and they're going to have some short positions in them and people are going to go to them. So for short-term trading vehicles, I think these are kind of like leveraged ETFs at this point, right? And leveraged ETFs, we know we don't hold for a long period of time, but they're good trades. So things like Mara, I remember, had a really high short float. Let me look that up now and I'll bring that over. But so we know it's moving, right? We just need to keep an eye on it. I think today is pretty much just a crypto day until there's some sort of a announcement or something in the economic calendar that can get us going there.
I'm struggling over here, guys. I'll be as honest as I can be. I'm getting washed with a big spread, and so that's the toughest thing to take, because right now my spread is winding out by about 50 cents, and so that's causing me to be down way bigger than I need to be, right? And so I got decisions to make, right? I think this is important because I think a lot of traders will run into decisions like this. So I've talked about it, my situation with UPXI there, and it just goes to show me, right? Because I did get an opportunity there to get out a little bit near the break even. So another thing that I sometimes tell myself is, when you get caught, a lot of the times you'll sometimes get a chance for the break even move. And right now, it ain't looking like it's going to come back here. I'll show you guys it really quickly. It's on the other screen, but here, let me just really quickly show you guys that and what I mean here. So you guys can see here, UPXI. I'm watching it now down to 320s, and I'm down big here. So down about 75. And normally on this account, I don't want to be losing more than 60 on the trades. But then the spread's winding out there. It's even going back towards like 290s there, right? So I'm definitely at the point where I just might need to just cut here and just take the hit. Sometimes you just got to take the hit. I was looking to see if I could spread up and just get a little bit of a move, because it kept spreading towards the 370s. But with the volume that's come in, that's where it is. The volume has just completely dried out on this. There was some volume on that pullback, so looking to see if it can just hold on this 316, not really close anything towards that 3, but it ain't looking good here, guys. This is one that I have to just manage and get the hell out.
Some of those lower price guys, right? The volume with the pre-market certainly can dry.
Yeah, you have to be willing to get in and get out, right? So
yeah. And yeah, a lot of that, I know you mentioned the kind of guru rooms earlier. Some of that can just happen for that reason, right? The guru says, okay, I'm out. And then all of a sudden there's no bids anymore and only offers.
It's crazy, man. I've been keeping up with certain gurus, and I can tell you right now, we've been nailing some of the trades they're doing, right? And so I can tell you that without a fact, guys. And there's a big reason why, is that I understand how they trade, right? It's just more along the fact of, can you be as quick as they are, right? A lot of these are like that Acon that we saw earlier this morning, make a little bit of a lift there. And there was a couple other ones this morning. TRNR is one that I think could actually fail today. I think they already rode that one up. Even I'm calling it right here, guys. He hasn't put out his video, but I'm going to call it how it is, right? So this TRNR, you saw that second pop around, let's say 735 that went to 360. That was Ross Cameron. I'll tell you guys that right now. And I'm not in his chat room. I'm not in that, but I can tell you guys how he trades. And this was part of his watch list yesterday. I keep on those watch lists. Why? Because I also want to know what the gurus and furus are watching. I know their style of trading. So this washout right before it at that 3 is something to learn from. And it's not so much about the pop that of what he's trading, it's how he trades it, right? So he looked for that liquidity wash, and you start to see volume start to increase on that liquidity wash through 3. It pops above 3, comes back to 2 down towards that 290s, 280s, and then takes a huge pop there at that 350. That's a lot of the times how they're going to go into these, and they're going to sell it a lot of times near those levels. So don't think that the big ones are holding for $1, $2, $3 moves. You got to be willing to know where the daily levels are. And this one was just plain daily level attacking prior resistance on the daily chart. And now I think at this point, the way that TRNR is looking, I'll actually be looking at the open for a pop and short kind of on this stock. So we'll see what happens on this.
Yeah, let me actually add it too. So I've got my day trading list here. So still sticking with the $100 profit target, just going for, again, another couple scalps, right? Get myself used to and programmed to take profits. Some names I got on there, interesting. A lot of them are going to just be popping with the overall strength of the market, but we got Palantir. Nvidia is actually flat on the day, but if this thing can break down the Qs, and then some of the more high flyers, the animal spirit type names, so Lunar, Soundhounds, Carvana, these are just the names that were coming through, kind of popped up. So again, the idea is just looking for something that's a little bit extended off the open, spend some time over VWAP, and then flushes down through VWAP to kind of trap in some longs, hit those stops, take my money, move on to the next day kind of thing. That's the goal. That's the hope. Let's see if we can do that. But when it comes to, I did bring up Mara there, and yeah, the short float's still 25% on Mara, and a lot of these are still pretty heavily shorted. So if I'm going to keep an eye on crypto all day at 12% on HUD 8, what Hive? I think Hive is like an AI thing now or something, but nope, nothing there. So some of these names, these big guys, I'm just going to watch the short float. And if we're going to get a pop in Bitcoin, so I'll just keep Bitcoin up on a chart on the corner of my screen. I might go after some of these names on a bit of my longer term account, just because not only do I like that we had that massive rally in Bitcoin, we had a nice little pullback and then a continuation move. So it just shows that there was, anytime you get a pullback and you get buyers coming in at a higher price, talk about it all the time, that's just more indication that, hey, we are there's some strength out there. There's some people waiting. So when a pullback happens, one of two things can happen. People run for the door because it's not an investment they want, and they were just riding it until the end and they wanted to get out. Or if a pullback happens and you get buyers coming in at a higher price, that means people were the other way around. They were excited. They wanted it to pull back. That's what I'm seeing here in Bitcoin. Again, I think these lows on a daily basis is still what we watch. Right? We broke down this $90,000 area, came back through at 93. As long as we hold above 93, then I think that that's the area in which we need to watch, because if we're under 93, then a lot of this euphoria may fade. Or sorry, if we're under 90,000, a lot of this euphoria may fade back out. If we're above it, then people might get super excited again and start to pile into just that wide swath of different names. Tesla, for some reason, is a crypto trade. I don't know why, but it is. It seems like it's one of those things that, I know he had some on his balance sheet at some point. But it seems to be this kind of Bitcoin type trade. So we'll see. But yeah, just a lot of things popping. We need to kind of go through and see what the open's like. Is it like we talked about over and over again? There's kind of two. We've seen a lot of gap and fade over the last couple months, right? Gap down, rip, gap down, rip, gap down, rip. And then now we need to see, is it the opposite? Are people going to start taking profits into this gap? If that first flush or that first move in the market is bearish, then I think it might make sense to, take a little bit of some profits and maybe be a little bit bearish on the day. But if that first move is bullish, then, it just shows that people are FOMOing in, and FOMO in rallies can be some of the best out there. So I always remind people, institutions, they don't play in the pre-market, right? They're not playing right now. You don't have Ray Dalio out there, scalping the pre-market action. So let's wait for the open, see where they end up pushing the markets. And again, if that first move's a profit take, I've got a whole list of things to short, at least from an intraday basis.
Yeah, I think one of the things you got to be thinking about is I talk about it for day trade. It's always the max pain. Where's the max pain today, guys? I think that's one thing to be asking yourself. There's a reason why I wanted to do that BTCT trade in the pre-market. And the reason why is I felt that the morning action could be bullish until the open. Reason why? Just the news. When you turned on the news this morning, I literally selected the thumbnail before Bitcoin stocks were moving this morning. It just was obvious to me that Bitcoin stocks were going to move this morning. It's just as clear as day, right? Now the question is, can it continue, right? It's not about the first action, because the first action is going to come. Now we'll see a continuation. And my thoughts, and the reason why I sold BTCT right now is because I feel like we're going to get this opening wash move and then the move higher. It could just be a gap and go, right? That's also the other option, but I feel like that makes it too easy. And a lot of times when I think about the move, I think about it being the harder move. What's the easier move here? The easier move is just it rips, and rips away. The other question is, will it give the chance for the dip buyers, right? And things like that. Does it want to shake out the bears at the open and just start to go higher, then pull back? There's plenty of ways that this could happen, but I also think that it's going to try to do both, right? Where you're going to get some type of range, established range, and then the breakout. I don't expect to just see one breakout in one direction here. So just be careful out there, guys. We'll see what happens here. And yes, stuffed crust is the way, man.
I don't even know if you guys know I'm a donaire. If we're going to a pizza joint, I'm getting a donaire. Maybe I'll have to Google that for you. I think that's a East Coast Canada thing, but yeah. No, I look at it same as with how I just said that the institutions don't trade in the pre-market. I don't think the institutions trade crypto. I think they trade the ETFs. So just like the opening price, you don't think should matter for Bitcoin, I really think it will, because they're trading just based off of what they're seeing out there in the markets, but they're not out there opening up their MetaMask account and trading in their Kraken account and doing whatever. They're trading through the ETFs and the things that they can touch with their massive amounts of liquidity. So I think, again, on the open, I'm going to be watching Mara and Hut and all of these names. Another one, Coinbase or Robinhood, is another one that you could play with it. But these names, I think, are kind of more important than anything when it comes to these different markets, just because when it opens, they're going to be trading the ETFs, and the ETFs are going to move Bitcoin as opposed to the other way around, I think. Just because it's one of those that if I'm a large institution, I'm not fast enough to make a decision based off a tweet, but I'm not going to do it in a crypto account. I'm going to wait for the morning and I'm going to take it in that account. So that first, let's all put our laser focus hats on, because I think the first 15 minutes of trading this morning is going to be the most important for the entire week, because it will tell us what are the vibes out there. Again, are people excited that there's finally a gap up that they can sell into and take some profits and move on? Or are people going to be really FOMO that they missed that rip that happened on Friday? And if they FOMO in, which I think is more of my bet, then I think we get just one of those face ripper rallies. And if we get from the lows and we just rip to those highs and then break through, there are so many bears caught off guard, and there are so many people underinvested that I think we could just see like a 10% pop in the SPY above those highs and not look back. So it's going to be interesting, and right, it's just one of those we don't know until the market opens. So I'm excited for it.
All right, we'll see what happens here, guys. Almost to the bell here. It's about 9:24. So looking around to see what happens here. I think you just got to continue to watch it, and then of course to see what happens in the Bitcoin names. Morrow is one I was thinking about taking an early bet. Did not take the early bet there. It already made a couple of moves higher. So I'm going to be looking for some washouts out the open. Today's that type of day, Michael, where I like the hourly pullback, right? Where you get a established pre-market support, you underwash it with the hourly and then start to come back. I think clear day where this makes sense, right? Especially when you got a nice little rip up like you did into the market on Friday. So essentially already made one kind of step move up, right? And so I'm watching to see, do you make that step down, attempt that support, and then reclaim that strength that you saw come in on Friday? So definitely, and it looks like Trader Plaid is agreeing with your pizza status here.
Oh man, good old Canadian boy has to love a good donaire, right?
Hit the like,
Donaire's
guys. We'll see what
poutines.
happens. And that's the Domino's Pizza that's bringing in the stuffed crust. So is there a Domino's Pizza stuffed crust trade? When's the last time you traded Domino's, man?
I can't. I'm trying to remember the ticker. I know Papa John's is pizza.
Oh, it's
got the
actually not
king
looking
ticker.
too bad. It's looking like a deep dish pizza right now. DPZ, my friend.
Yes. Usually, and this could be a fun game. We could quiz each other because I bet you 90% of the companies out there between me and you, we just know the ticker.
Yeah.
It's to the point where if I go to Apple's website, I type in AAPL instead of Apple, and then it
That's
brings me to
happens to
some
me,
weird,
man.
like just
I don't
that's a nice little
describe
right
stock
there.
names. I describe ticker names, man.
Yeah. I'll
tell
type
my
in.
friend, yeah, I'll be like, you should buy some DPZ. I don't tell him he should buy some Domino's.
Yeah. Well, and even, when the wife's talking about Starbucks, right? I'll text her SBUX.
SBUX, you mean?
Yeah. It's a
We'll
good
see what
looking chart.
happens out
Still
there,
pop there.
guys. And the Bitcoin names are kind of hard to move too. The reason why I went to BTCT also is the low float. So another thing to think about with these is the floats on these, right? Because if you're trying to move them in the intraday, you kind of want one of these low floaters to kind of get the lift. Another one to just to think about, and I wonder what you would think, Michael. It's a tighter name, but ETHU, the leverage Ethereum name. Ethereum still has not gotten the love, and it's really beaten down here on the ETF.
Ooh.
So one thing I clearly see on this, though, if you look on the weekly, look how much volume came in last week on this. This to me is a telling sign. Why? Because like you say, Michael, like the big investors, right? They're looking at these ETFs. And to me, and when I see those volume signs at the bottom, they don't tell me to run the other way. They tell me to run looking at this to see if that was maybe potentially bigger buying near the bottom, right? And does someone know something that I don't? And so what I'd look for, can you clear the support to the left-hand side of like maybe 445? Starting to recover this chart. And it doesn't look too bad. That's Ethereum, right? And it hasn't made the run that all the other ones have.
Well, and so I put on something here because sometimes when something makes a huge sell-off, just a little less than that, the volume can be a little misleading because what happens is, right, one share is $2 as opposed to 10. So it would make sense that 5 times as many shares could change hands. So one thing you can do, and there's a lot of charting platforms that have this, but I brought it up, is just dollar volume. So this just shows the amount of money that's actually changed hands as opposed to the per share, but that's still popping up and increasing down here. So it's very interesting. Now I went to Ethereum, and Ethereum is looking interesting, but just stuck in this range still, right? And again, the dog of the crypto space. I don't know how many times I've had people, friends of mine and other traders, call me and say, "Oh, altcoin season's coming." It's
coming. It's coming. I saw Farcoin come down though, man.
Yeah, Farcoin did come down a little bit, but for me, if it's anything, if I'm going to the non-Bitcoin coins, Ethereum's dead to me until it can get through that high. I'm interested in Solana.
To me.
I don't know if there's a Solana ETF out there or something to trade, but
not yet. It's they're trying to bring it, man, and I think it's coming soon. I think you'll hear news from it pretty soon.
Good.
So I think that's one that you might have to go for the coin itself at first, but hey.
Well, just look at this relative strength and then compare this to Ether, right? This bleed down, and Solana, even we'll go back to this chart, and then we can go back to Bitcoin. So Solana's even been outperforming Bitcoin. So yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know. I'm interested in trading that, but we just opened. So let's bring up the SPY. Let's go to the 2-minute chart.
Let's go to it, guys.
And let's just do what we always do. Well, let's mark up the pre-market high, and let's mark up the pre-market low, and just start to take a look based off all the things, what's going on here. First move is down so far. We're only obviously a minute in, so don't worry too much about it.
Establish my stop there on UPXI, no matter what, $75 in the red. Seeing BTCT pop right out the gates to that 550, big spot to watch to see if that 550 breakout here. I'm not playing this move just yet because like I told you guys, I'm being a little bit careful out the gates here. Already made about $400. Need to continue that going and use that in the right ways. So we'll see what happens here in BTCT. I'll show you guys it right there. You guys see how it's trying to do 550 push, 550 push, 550 push. Now starting to struggle. What I'm looking for is an attempt to this 5. So wash out these buyers that bought on this break of the 519, which was me too. But there it is. There's the wash towards the 5. Now I'm looking for it to kind of come and maybe make a move towards, like, if I bought at 5, where's my stop? 480s. And then I'm going to look for it to come back through 5 and look to see if that momentum could come right back in. So
yeah, I'm just watching a little bit of a bounce on looking at the overall market. So we're getting a bit of a bounce as the first move, but I'm just kind of going through and waiting. Nvidia doing a flush. So yeah, the S&P 500 seems to be outperforming the Qs. So one of those things that aren't tech seem to be rallying better, right? It seems to be one of the 2 days happens. It's either tech bumps or things that aren't tech bump. And it looks like we're seeing that the other way around there, where things that aren't tech seem to be the things that are moving. So, but we get the SPY, it's popping right through the pre-market high, or getting close to the pre-market high here. That's that purple line above. So we had a little bit of a flush for 2 seconds, and then we started to bounce a little bit from there.
All right, looking at the scanners out there, seeing what's making a move out there. Not seeing too much. There's not too much just showing up just yet. XLF holding really well. Intel on the pull back there. I like that. Back through the 24. It's at 24.55 right now. Goldman Sachs holding the support really well there around the 622. Watching that action. Q's coming back towards the highs. So is the SPY here. It did make an opening dip there, but it got bought really quickly here. Let's see if they start to take the highs here. Q's pushing stronger than the SPY and getting close towards that resistance around the 512.50.
Yeah, so far nothing from any of the alerts or any of the scans. So nothing to do, because again, for now, I'm exclusively looking at the short side of the market, looking for things to fade down. Of course, when the market's ripping like this, it's not. So the first thing we got to test is what happens when we get to the pre-market high. If we go to the daily chart, the pre-market high is well above yesterday's gap. But one thing I notice is into these 3 days of action. If we go to like the hourly chart and just zoom this line out, you can see we had a top here, and then a top again, and then a top again. So we got 3 tops sitting right in this area. So we got to, if we get through that, there's just a lot of resistance in this zone. So I'm watching that very closely, just to see if we get there, do we reject? So far we are. If we start to reject from that zone, that might be a little bit of an interesting trade to make. Just try to see if there's a few bucks to get pulled there on some of these names.
BTCT starting to recover that $5 spot there. I'm still looking for one more attempt towards the 480s and then the recovery, but it's starting to spread out a little bit there.
So AS, if we go over here, we'll do this. So there's SoundHound, but also ASTS as one of those spent the entire morning pretty much above VWAP and is flushing here. So I'm watching that one, and I'm watching SoundHound. I just got the alert on. He's struggling with the VWAP. So no trade for that guy yet, but we're just seeing if we do get a little bit of a flush there in some of those names. A lot of alerts came through there, but nothing too interesting. So SoundHound could be one to watch for a little bit of just a revision. And again, these are just short-term scalps if we can get them. Going back to the SPY here, a second attempt maybe at those highs. If that starts to fade, again, that could just show that there is a bunch of resistance there that we got to digest, and we'll see what happens there. But just a bit of an opening chop back and forth.
There you go. Got cut out there in the UPXI. Got to take the hit when you get hit sometimes, guys. So definitely taking that hit there in UPXI. We'll try to bounce back on the day.
So one thing I am going to watch, because I do have on my list, is just the Qs itself. So if the Qs end up breaking back down through VWAP, that could be an interesting flush there, because the S&P 500 so far is struggling to get to those and to break those highs. So again, one thing I'm going to start adding, I think, is the ability to trade some of these leveraged ETFs. Talked about that a little bit, right? Trading the Qs and the TQQQs to see if there's potentially something there to do, just based off of how wild these things can move. Potential trades there. So
Q's going into the red a little bit there. Yep. So now's when I'm going to look to see. So what did we get there? We're starting to get that established range. So I'm looking for an undercut of that established range, and then a move right back to the top end of the range, seeing if we're going to break it. So that's why BTCT starts to stand out to me. It started to make that 480s attempt, washing out some of those 5 buyers. Now let's see if it starts to work its way back here.
Yeah, so we're still range bound, right? I'm going to add another line here, and that line's just going to be this zone, because it was pretty much the low from today, and then it was also the low in this bounce in the pre-market. So there could be some action going on there. Here, TRNR that I added to that list that you were thinking of maybe shorting, that actually triggered on the strategy that I'm building here.
Yeah.
So looking for a flush under there. So I may take a look at that one as well.
I like it, dude.
So a failed VWAP trade potential on this. Yeah, we'll see. Sometimes these ones end up just being the best, but you got to be quick. So I'm just waiting for a little bit of confirmation here that this is going to actually flush. And then if it looks like it's going to, then it's one of those that the pre-market low is 280. So then below that, two-day VWAP's 240. So it's got a good potential risk reward. It's just gotta go.
Yeah, I think it's looking good here, guys. I like that TRNR. There it is, guys. I was talking about it before the open, how this one has already had the guru move. So I could see it getting a rejection. Now what I'm looking for is a 320 rejection here. And there's a reason why. It's just a good level to reject on the 15-minute reversal back up. So would like to see it get right back up towards like kind of 320s and then just quickly reject. That's just me for TRNR, so that I can get an entry. Also gives me the ability to risk off the high.
Yeah, the SPY looks like it's flushing back at lows here. So we talked with this in the open. I thought that first 15-minute range was going to be really important. Looks like I'm starting to get an unmanageable amount of triggers here. So,
all right, guys, starting to get that cut down look, right? So if I look on the hourly of the Qs, right, and I look at kind of the resistance from Friday, that could bring us down around the 508.86. So that's kind of levels where I could see bounces. This morning we had a support around 510. So looking to see if that holds here.
So yeah, the SPY, it's like 595.75, I think is the biggest area to keep an eye on. Anything holding above that, if we're back above, that could have just been a little flush. If we hold below, it could break. I don't think there's anything from the economic reports at all today that really anyone cares about. So it looks like it's just pure price action. Now, I think it'd be healthy if we came in and tested, say, yesterday's high, which is a little bit like a point below where we are now. I think that's a good thing, right? If we came down and we tested that and found that as support, I'm talking longer term here, and then churn there a little bit and push higher, I think that's going to be a good thing. So
small stock ripping BTAI.
It's got AI in the name, of course it is,
and it's also biotech.
Oh well, there you go. Other than that, I'm looking around at some of these different sectors and nothing really standing out. Right, if I go to the heat map, Nvidia being down is the biggest thing I think that's kind of standing out for me, but it's just showing that we don't necessarily need Nvidia to move in order to move the markets anymore. And I think, again, I think that's a good thing. I think you don't want to have Nvidia being the whole thing that moves the whole market. So the fact that Nvidia is down and we have still the market being green and everything being up, I think is very interesting. So
All right. Gonna start taking a shot here in BTCT, and I also looking at TSLL today, Tesla essentially.
So I am short my ASTS. That's just been flopping around, but it's working here. So now I can lower my stop, which I really like on this one. It's starting to move for me right there. So it's starting to break down and starting to move for me. So I can just take my stop and raise it above those VWAPs and those highs, which just puts me at a much smaller risk than I was at the high of the day. And again, we're just looking for a little bit of a flush here to end up hitting the daily profit target and then moving on from there. If I can do what I did last week, I'll be actually very happy with this. Might take me a couple months to end up passing the goal, but feels better. And that's the most important thing. That's why I keep talking about building these strategies. Then you got to put them into the real life and see how they feel.
Yeah.
So we are getting a little bit of that flush here on ASTS. Let's take a look at the SPY, see if that's helping me or hurting me. Yeah, we're just still floating around that zone. So just need a little bit more of a push down here on ASTS, and that would be great, but who knows? I'll probably protect my entry in a second here. We're still flopping around, right? There's nothing huge is happening, but I do think this level that I drew ends up being very, very important. Some other names that are coming through the scanner here, if people are interested, RGTI is breaking down that VWAP. A lot of these quantum names I had, I basically filled the list today with animal spirits names, for lack of a better term, right? What are those crazy names? I was thinking space and robotics and quantum, and not necessarily things that were gapping,
Ooh,
but
look
things
at
that are just
TRNR.
huge. Oh, just ripping there, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it just did that fake out to the breakout look there, and it was a quick one there, guys. So be careful out there, guys. That's how these do it. And now it's doing that blow off top. It doesn't mean that it's going through the moon either. I'm watching TSLL here. I did get cut out quickly there in BTCT, but with a small amount, only 200 shares. So it took I think a $40 hit there just to get it started here. Yeah, 57 on the hit there. So still up 363. Looking at TSLL to see if it starts to recover. I like BTCT back above 5. That's another one to look at. But looking to see what happens there. TRNR, though, big push there.
ASTS hit. So we are donezo there. So that's good. That's another day into the books. I'm still going to look around because, again, it doesn't mean we're done learning. Oh, it's going to be one of those that's going to make me sad for cutting it early, but it's what I got to train myself to do, is to get in, to take it, and to get out. This TRNR, I think, will be interesting if it gets back down through maybe VWAP. Might be an interesting play there.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it's gotten up to this high, but that's not, nowhere near pre-market high yet. So it's got a lot of room to go there.
And stopping around the same level is something to watch for too, right? Tried to reload there on the VWAP, so it's trying its best. Back through 310, opening daily price today. That's what I'd like. So that turns it from that green to the red candle on the daily. And if you look on the daily, this is another reason why I like it, because it's on the daily. To me, this seems like a classic stock that would just come crashing right back down. Here's TSLL starting to make the move here.
Yeah, look at this weekly chart showing $31,000 as a max price for TRNR. So, yeah, this seems like it's definitely just pure speculation. Soundhound, I didn't end up taking, but that looks like that could be fading there as well. Yeah, some of these quantum names, INOQ, that one, that looks interesting to me. It looks like it, spent the morning above VWAP, and then it's fading back through. It's getting close to its 2-day VWAP, so we need to see what's happening there. But yeah, just a lot of interesting looking names. We need to keep an eye on the SPY, though. I just wanted to bring this in because this is the Dow, right? So before we go back to the SPY, let's take a look at the Dow for a second, actually holding pretty well. And then we go back to the SPY, and now this thing's continuing to flush. So it just shows that it's one of those risk type of days, right? Where people are removing, they don't want tech stuff, they want Dow stuff. That's the reason I leave both of these up here. You can see IWM down, you can see Qs, right, flushing and getting close to yesterday's breakout range. And then you see the Dow just hovering there near highs, being chill, having a good time. And again, just shows you the market environments, right? And what we're seeing there in this market environment is just, people are grabbing risk on asset or risk off assets, right? So more of the kind of real stuff that when you drop it on your foot, it hurts.
All right, guys. So long that TSLL, I talked about it there. Took the shot there, back through the 14s there. This is also an hourly recover, now back towards the 422s. You guys see the stop placed there. Full order on there now, 700 shares. Now we're looking good as we're popping towards the 140. Going to look for a quick ride up through the high and back towards, like, let's say, even maybe potentially run into 15 here. I would like to see the Qs also make a big move off of this. I talked about how I'd like to see the Qs undercut that hourly and then start to really move back. 510 is a big spot for me to watch now to see that recovery come back in and get back towards, like, let's say 512s or 513s here. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we are starting to see that bounce there on the Qs. Let's go to QQQ.
All right, guys, going to take some profits here in a second.
Yeah, nice. It's a nice looking bounce there, and we'll see what happens if we can get back there on both the Q and the SPY to maybe VWAP as well. What will happen there at that level?
All right, guys, with Tesla, one of the things is with me, when I get quick profits, take the quick profits, man. So quick profits there, took off half, stop, break even. Now, if the stock just keeps riding with the momentum, I'll ride the momentum, but at least paid myself. And what did that do? That took off the loss and then some, right? So that now I'm up to 451 with a good position, in a position of strength. That's what I want to do. All right, TRNR is one of the ones that I want to go after now on the downside. I'm trying to get in. I just got in there on the quick sweep down there, guys, but you got to be careful with a quick sweep like this. It could sweep right back up. So going to be careful with the stop and try to place it within some range that I can handle. About $25 of risk here is what I'm willing to do. Around the 320s here. Back, I'll take it. I shorted there really quickly. I'm going to switch over to the other screen there, but TRNR short there. Just give me a second there, guys. That went quick. I was trying to hit in the 330s, and it went to the 310 in an instant there. So I'm going to reshare here a different screen, and I'm going to set it up so this we can make these a little bit faster switch there so that you guys can see it. TRNR short there. You guys see it right there around the 310s. And I talked about how the 310 was such an important spot here. Let's see if they bounce it back or do they flush it. Of course, I even can tell you guys, I chased a little bit there, so I'm trying to be smart here. 320 rejection could happen here. So I'm trying to give myself a little bit of room, maybe about 25, 30 bucks here. Also not trying to show my hand because it could easily spread out and just come get me. Got to be careful here. This is a fast mover. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that 320 roughly lines up with VWAP too. It's around 325. And it actually did just trigger. So here back on the system, that blue arrow again saying, hey, take a look to short this one as it's broken back through VWAP. So again, we'll see if this is one of those names that will end up rejecting there, because yeah, it's a wild one, right? This thing could go
a wild one indeed.
Two-day VWAP, we're sitting at 244. So that's a pretty wild dip if it got there, but it could, right? This is one of those names that could just flush all day, because again, I always want to, you gotta look at the daily chart or the weekly chart on this thing. From 29,000 all the way down. It's, we're talking day trading, so the weekly chart might not be that important, but it just shows that this is an awful company that is probably going to go bankrupt at some point. So being able to short this one, I think is very interesting here.
Here's that 320 attempt here. And this is where I talk about how your entry should be near your stop. To me, this is exactly where my entry should be. And it's points to learn, right? So right here, I'm setting the stop there, 332s. We'll see if I get hit here. But willing to risk about 40 bucks on this one. I went 200 shares on this one. There it is. I just got, I got that market maker out there. Yeah, he hunted that 333s. It just literally ticked the top there. But that's how it goes sometimes, guys. Took the loss there. And I can tell you guys, 320 should have been my entry there. Could have risked a little bit higher here towards like 340s there. Jumped on the bid there, and that was my fault. Should have been looking for at least a little bounce back here, and then the flush. But got caught there in TRNR, and that's gonna do it for at least the funded account. Down 122, my biggest day down so far. Got to take it. Still in the green on the account, but it's okay. It's how it happens. This trade could have definitely got us back on the day. And that's all you can do. Now, what do? I just go work my other eval account. Don't stress the pain. It's not about that. It's about taking trades. And when they work, they work. And when they don't, it's about sticking to that risk to return. Talked about it, step up this week. So, hey, that's okay. Just keep the risk to return in mind. $45 is exactly around the area where I want to lose. Not like the 75 that I lost earlier. That was a little bit too much, right? And so around the 45 to 50, if I was losing 20 to 30 before, I'm kind of stepping it up to that 45 to 50 range. And that's going to make us about 150 on the green trades. We'll see what happens here on TRNR. Tough trade there.
So yeah, the SPY is continuing to flush through here. So continuing to show us that sellers at least coming in off the open. This isn't as dramatic as I was kind of thinking that if we got a down day where we would. If we go to the 30-minute chart, right, we're not even to this consolidation right here or yesterday's pre-market low. So that's the areas that I'm looking for to see if this is something that's just a little bit of a pullback or it's something that's going to be bought up, and it certainly could be. So this could just be a little bit of a flush to get some people interested, to get some people involved, and then we could end up ripping. The fact that we failed to even get through pre-market high should have been kind of our key that this flush might happen. So I'm still watching that 595.75 to see what happens there, but pre-market low is 593.50. So that's another interesting one.
For TRNR and that platform, this is what I'm going to do, guys. It's simply as this. Look at the bottom here. So you see the lock button. I'm done. I'm not going to try to revenge trade this. Going to try to treat trading on the day. And that's one thing to notice also. I think one of the important part is to notice when you make a trading mistake, like I kind of did on UPXI, and be honest with yourself, right? It's okay. We all make mistakes. The important traders and the best traders, they realize it and they either close the books today to get their mentality back, right? Because mental capital is so important, or they just focus to their trades. So in my eyes, that wasn't a bad trade on TRNR. It was a nice setup, a bad chase there a little bit. So execution slightly off. That tells me even more. What should I do? I'm going to lock the platform. And what am I going to do? I'm going to hit the X button. It's done. Forget about that platform today.
Good.
And that's the important thing, guys. And then what do? I bring my eValve account and I get back to work. This one's doing good for me today. These strategies are working for me today. So I'm going to go where the strategies are working, not where they're not, right? Not push it where it doesn't work and push where it is working.
Palantir just came through the scan here on this last 2-minute candle and just flushed. So a couple of these high flyer names. Again, I had it all loaded up with the risk on type names, IONQ, flushing down, right? ASTS. I'm going to be sad that I got out where I did, but those were the rules. SERV, right? All these are just the big names out there, and they're all just kind of flushing with the Qs, just showing that we're entering a bit of a risk off mode where people aren't feeling super excited to get really involved in more of these crazy type names. So we just need to, again, keep this in mind as the SPY, if we go here just to the SPY, starting to get closer to this high right here. And this is the post-market high on Friday. It's where all of the post-market range happened. So a lot of people are kind of pegged to that price, the red to green price, if you will. And that's where I think if we're going to see support, we're probably going to see it around here. So it might make sense to, if we're looking to buy something, that this would be the place in order to potentially do it. So I'm taking a look at some of these. Mara, which flushed, Hut, which gapped and flushed. All of these names that have been gapping and flushing, can they kind of get back through major levels or back through VWAP? Because if they can, that might be an interesting place to take some of these trades. But yeah, when you see big names like Palantir and everything come through this short list, it just kind of tells you that, hey, the people are they're backing off a little bit when it comes to taking risk, at least right now in the market.
Another thing that you'll see right now in a lot of the charts, and I'm seeing it right now, is that 4 waves down type of move, right? We've talked about these. Now I start to look for those liquidity touches, right? So like one on BTCT, one on Intel. They're very similar looking charts. There's a reason why, guys. This is a leak. Now I need to look for that liquidity style move where the buyers step in on a bid kind of leak there. So that's what I'm looking for on Intel. I'm looking for it on BTCT. I'm looking for it on TSLL, right? 1, 2, 3 waves down. Do we get this kind of liquidity? And then all of a sudden the move higher. So that's what I'm looking for here on the Qs. And for the big thing for me on the Qs is, of course, looking also. Okay, so now you're coming back into hourly range on Friday's action. Can you reclaim that? The 508.35. Right now we're at 507.36.
So that TSL or that TRNR is flirting with that pre-market highs, where everything else is popping down to lows. So if we do get, and I know we were looking to the short side of this, but if we do get some stabilization here on the SPY, some of these names, right, just go through your list and just say what's up on the day, because those names are probably going to be doing well. So that's kind of one thing that I'm watching. But the SPY is getting really close to this kind of post-market low, which
getting
happened
that liquidity
way back here.
move there in Intel. I'm going to go ahead and take some Intel. That was part of my playbook today, so I don't mind taking a shot here.
Yeah, we're getting a bit of a push to lows here, and we'll see what happens if we do get back through those post-market lows. Yeah, so we're right there right now. So the question is, do we bleed through it a little bit? Do it suck in some shorts to stop out some longs? And then do we go from there? Because that's officially a kind of red to green type move where we were green on the day and now we've just entered red territory. So everyone, all of the excitement over the weekend and everything has been wiped out for everybody except Papa Dow, who's just hanging out near highs here. So some people would then be tempted and say, okay, well, now I'm going to short the Dow stock. For me, I'm interested in actually buying here. I wonder if there's a multi-leverage Dow name, just because this shows you what's holding. It shows you what's doing well. If we sort just my list here by change, you can see silver is doing well. Actually, marijuana stocks are up on the day. WGMI is still good. I'm going to go after strength, right? These are the names that I'm going to start to take a look at. Gold miners are doing well.
Gold mining.
So WGMI might be one to potentially play if there's ended up being a play to be had here. Because if the market's going to bounce, so if we're going to get some sort of liquidity grab, we know the sector that has been the strongest has been crypto. So maybe that's something that we get involved in and just say, instead of picking the miner, WGMI is just a way to pick all of the miners and just say, okay, if this thing's going to go, then hey, maybe we'll get a bounce from all of it.
All right, guys, last 15 minutes. What's green and also green from the open? Communication services, utilities, and defensive names. Where is it in the defensive names? Tobacco, confectioners, household goods. Those are doing pretty well. Stocks like Clorox up 1.6%, not looking too bad from the open. NWL, Honest Company, and then there's a smaller name that's making a little bit of a lift there. That's Ray Holdings, RAY. There's Intel starting to make the move. I'm going for the shot here, guys. I talked about how I would like to take it, looking for that liquidity move, got that liquidity move, was waiting to start to see the green come back in too, right? That's another thing for me here. It's not going too crazy too quickly there. Now I can risk off that bottom, and it just makes sense here. Of course, this is the bigger account, so I can risk a little more here. Going to risk about 85 on the bottom there. Yeah, towards like 24.10s, I can risk about 85 here. Looking for this to start to climb back here. The big part, the Qs need to start to reverse also. So I'll take a look to see if that strength can come back in here. We'll see what happens. Also taking a look at like TSLL, looking for that reversal to come off the hourly support. So if you look here on the hourly, I'll show you guys it really quickly, how this is coming right back towards Friday's kind of resistance area. And then I feel like that's where they'll go buying, right? They'll wash the bulls, buy it back on the hourly right around Friday's resistance. So right around this area, I'm looking to see if we can get it.
A little bit of a flush
Taking a hit
there.
there. Yeah, flush there for sure. Was over there showing Tesla and got the flush on Intel there. So watching for the 24 cut down there. Might need to get out here on the 24 cut down.
The Qs are getting close to the 2-day VWAP, which is sitting just right below us here. So that might be an interesting place to take a look at for a potential bounce there off the Qs. Yeah, just that was something. I don't know what that was, but that was definitely
well, ISM coming in here this morning. We got economic data coming in at 10. So definitely that's shaking up a little bit there. Let me go ahead and pull Benzinga Pro here to take a look at what came in there. Kind of shook the market a little bit. And they're going to probably use that to wick it down. That's what I'm looking for, and seeing if the rise would come back in now. So, of course, take a look in the action there. I'll give you guys the numbers just in 2 seconds here. Okay, so numbers coming in here. ISM manufacturing at 62.4 versus a 56.2 estimate, prior being 54.9. So good action there. And the PMI showing a little bit of some spiking there. And that's another manufacturing PMI coming in at 50.3 versus a 50.6. Construction spending at -0.2 versus a -0.1 estimate. So not looking good in construction. So if you see some housing stocks go down on this, that could affect here. But overall, not looking too bad here. Starting to bounce back is the market. It's kind of what I was looking for. Let's go.
So that had a pretty nasty flush that might have gotten a couple people involved in a place they didn't want to be. And then it looks like we are reversing here. So now we got to see, we're on the 2-minute chart. We got to see that kind of hold as a bottoming tail and then start to make some green action from here. But that flush could have been, a bunch of stops getting triggered, right? So the people looking at this number and saying, this number's, scary for whatever reason. But I think that just sets a new target for us on the Qs, on the SPY. Is just now we just look at the low of this flush, right? It was that flush, something that got everybody. Where's that VWAP anchored from? Sometimes you have a line on your chart. Like, where'd that line come from? Oh, that's the low here of Friday's action before that reversal. That's kind of funny that we came right there down to there. But yeah, so I think we watched this kind of 591 area on the SP 500, on the Qs as well, just the low of that flush. And if that holds and starts to push higher, then that could have been the rip and rally that we were looking for. So that could be capitulation across the board. So we got TSLL here. Yeah, that could have been a little bit of a flush. That's holding a little bit strong. I guess we just always do your analysis on the real thing. TSLA, that's interesting. So now we got to see if we're going to bounce on these names. Do we get back to VWAP? So if we go to Qs, right, our VWAP sitting just kind of right below here, and we end up seeing what happens there. So
taking the shot long TSLL.
Yeah, so I think, right, the play gets pretty simple, right? If I was taking a more speculative bet here, and I may open another account just to trade the TQQQ, I think might be interesting. Maybe I'll do it with our partners, the Fivers, where you can trade the indice. Your bet, I think, becomes pretty simple here, right? You risk the low of that wick, 504-ish. And if that wick holds and we start to push higher, there's probably a lot of people that got trapped in that wick down, and we could take a little bit of a push, maybe back to VWAP, and we see what happens if and when we get back to VWAP there. But that will be an interesting move if that occurs. So.
All right, we got to start seeing the overall indices start to make that move back here, because they got the ability to start coming back. Economic data with a nice little wick there. Looking for the quick move back, right? One of the things that I would think is if they're going to bring it back, like really bring it back, I think they do it in a fast pace here. And that's just my thinking. But I don't think they let the bulls in, essentially. So how do they do that? They push it fast. and fast out of the zone, right? And so
Create
not
that
letting
FOMO.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're just stuck waiting to try to get in on pullbacks, and pullbacks might not happen. That's the way I just think about it, right?
Yeah, so the SPY getting close to that line, that was that pre-market low. I think one setup that I may just add to the repertoire starting tomorrow, I've just seen it happen so much, is when I mark up these levels, if you spend some time above or below them and then you start to break back through, like you mentioned, sometimes they're very fast moves. And just showing the higher the low of the day, where some buyer wanted liquidity, they slammed it down to close the gap. As soon as the gap got closed, they did a little jiggly action just to scare everybody, and then it looks like if we can get back above, so that's 593.03, or just say 593 even on the SPY, has to get back through that range in order to be very interesting, which would be right, go from fill the gap, scare people a little bit more, and then start to rally it. And that's where I think you would hit that trigger you were just talking about, Mitch, where they're not going to make it easy, right? If we start ripping through there, then it's going to be one of
how it goes
those.
sometimes.
You want to force them to either chase it lower or chase it higher. That's why, generally speaking, when you get these moves, they can happen really, really fast, because they want to make sure that if you missed it, sorry for you, but we're going to make you pay.
Yeah.
We're going to make you pay up.
All right, let's start see it here, guys. So I'll show you guys my screen here. One trade deeper into the green, one trade in the red. I'm protecting the Intel, watching TSLL start to run. I already set the stop there in TSLL back towards the 1370. So I would like to see it get back to 14 and really start making the move. But if it doesn't, it's okay too, right? I'm giving it the chance there, right? We'll see what happens if it does cut me back here. And then just watching to see if Intel starts to make the move off this bottoming action. Really can't see it back at 24. 24, I can get out. I know where I need to get out, and it needs to really start showing some strength. Remember, this is one that had some good catalysts, so I'm looking for the buyers to step back in and step back in fast here.
Well, I think you said something important there that I want to highlight, right? You said one green and one red. I'm going to protect the red one. And I think there's so many people that would very mentally do the opposite, right? They'd want they hope the red one turns green, and then they would focus all their attention on the one that's red as opposed to the one that's green, right? Where I think you're doing it 100% right. You say this one's lagging, so I'm less interested. The one that's leading, that's the one I really got to look at and manage, right? I've got my stop in. I'll let that one work, and then I'll focus on the other one. We're getting that rip in the SPY here.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Range. Looking good, guys. Looking good on that first rip here. So another thing could be is to take some profits from TSLL and then use that as the defining risk in Intel. So that's another thing that I can use. Maybe take some quick gains and use that and see what the remainder is here. So if I can get a lift off above 1410, let's say 1410s going to 1430s, I can take some profits in Tesla and then use that to see if it can continue to run there.
Brad said, we know you're talking about me when I was talking about the one that would be worried about, or the hoping the red one would come up. But no, it's just human nature, right? I don't know why it is, but yeah, it's one of those things where you have to manage the one that's working, and then set your stop on the other
Intel
one
there, and I can get back in there, guys. I think Intel's working there. The big thing is with the one in the green and the setup that we have right now, it could bring it back to the lows. So I'm going to give Tesla the shot here and not Intel a shot. Tesla's showing me more strength. I'm going to stay with Tesla here, see if I can get some gains, not letting it cut 1380s, looking for the 14 break.
Yeah. Just going through what we're seeing here in the market. So now that's the most worrisome candle I think I've seen in this bounce, is that we came back to that range. And again, I haven't moved these lines, just it goes to show you how important it is to have these levels to watch. And we rejected from that, and we started to push down. So that's one of those. Yeah. So if we bleed back into these wicks too far, I don't know. It might be lights out and another low. So I think we really just got to watch that level, that zone.
Cut out there. Not going to lose on the trade, right? I've been doing too well on the day to kind of give up some gains there. So I was smart there, and two trades there that were good setups. What did I end up doing, guys? Plus 250 on one, down 250 on one. The momentum couldn't continue. So I'm trying to play the momentum move, a bigger move. Part of playing momentum is also understanding that there's going to be times to get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get out. Right now, I'm not trying to risk too much of my profits on the day and just trying to keep riding it. What do I got to do? Got to keep playing the momentum, being a little bit flip-floppy, watching for some continued strength. The cues aren't showing us that right now. You just mentioned it, Michael. And so with that being said, I have to give it the attempt for the washout here. And if it starts coming back really strong, I can get back into those names, right?
Well, and right. So I think now we look to see if the flush happens, like where does the flush happen, right? What names can we look at to potentially, right? If we were going to dig in here, we were saying, hey, let's look at some names that are strong. If we're going to reject here, which now looks like we're bouncing again, you know,
a little bit of ping pong.
What's going to reject. Now, one thing that's interesting to me here is your TRNR.
Yeah, I'm watching it, but I ain't touching it.
even as your market, so that triggered, I just noticed because it triggered back on my alerts again for back below VWAP. So this is one that, you know, twice would have been a failure. Now, right, interesting short, and just putting a stop at the high there and saying, well, if that occurs, then great. And then look to see what that fade, and that fade, if we're looking at the 2-day VWAP, it's all the way down to 257. So that's a pretty significant move. Could be something interesting there, but that's a wild child. So it'll be interesting to see if it just pulling back to rip higher, or if this thing is just done. Because again, I have to keep looking at this one because it's in this weekly chart is just hilarious to me. I mean, 32,000 to $3. So
nice recovery now, starting on Intel.
Yeah, the SPY getting back up to that level, so knocking its head against that level again, could potentially be a potential bottom or a low for today. So I think that's something that we got to keep in mind. If that is the low of the day, then that's kind of technically perfect for the day, in which you had a breakdown, right? A break of this candle and a breakdown into the prior day's range, and then you just met buyers there. So as soon as you got into the prior day's range, buying came in, especially on an economic report. But for me, it's still battling this 293 level. We're below it now, and we're looking healthier. But the question is just, can we get through that 293 zone? If we can get through and close through, I may actually, just on a paper account here, I may actually just take a little bit of shot, and the play would just be, we've got to draw out the risk reward here, but the play would just be buying somewhere near here, putting a stop at the low of the day, and then seeing if we get a reversal on the day. Let's go 1.68. So that's something to watch, but we got to get and kind of close through this level. This level seems to be big resistance so far anyway.
All right, guys, it's over 10 o'clock here. I'm going to take a second here to tell you guys about something that I need you guys to go ahead and check out, guys. Like always, I bring you guys some new tools that we have, and we have a new thing for you guys. And I think it's very important to kind of catch this action, guys. We have some education that we've gotten and constructed here for you guys. So here's the link that you guys want to go ahead and take a look. Learn from funded traders. Learn from lessons on the platform itself. Trade the pools, education, and you guys see it, VOD, videos on demand. This is your Netflix for trading here, guys. So if you're like me and you like to watch videos and you don't know what to do at night, well, just tune to this link right here, and you guys can get some good trading tips and keep it going. Let me know what you guys think of it, and if you guys want to see some more on that education, but definitely check it out, guys. I'll show you guys exactly how this looks in just a second here.
I got this
so you guys
here too.
Oh, you got it. You got it. Let's take a look at it. Show us how it looks here. And I'll put it up here on the screen here for you. There it is. Look at this, guys. Look at your your new Netflix without a subscription cost either.
Exactly. So this is something we're working on, and we're going to work on more content and build more courses and put everything through here. But this is a great hub for just everything that's happening over at Trade the Pool. So we got our CEO there who's interviewing funded traders, talking about their different journeys and how everything's going there. It's just to little things like, right, setting up a workspace. And I love that clicking on each of these gives you a little preview so you can see what you're getting into before you get too deep into it. You find, right, tons of different headings. So we got podcasts, funded traders, right? Pre-market action, collaborations with different traders, different ideas out there, so you can kind of branch out, tutorials, and this is just to get started, right? So there'll be much more coming through here as we build out more content, more education. I know me and Mitch are working on some secret side projects that we'll tease you guys when they get a little bit closer.
Yeah, guys, and in a little bit, I'll also be telling you guys about another opportunity that you guys may have, and I think it's something definitely to check out. One thing that I've been thinking about is, and you guys heard Michael talk about it also, is maybe thinking about getting a little bit into future action, right, and using that as an ability to keep trading, right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that as the show develops. Let's get back to the trading action here and see what we can find, guys. I'm watching right now. This TSLL, it's starting to recover. I did get a liquidity move in Intel that I'm sure shook out a lot of people, a lot of hands here. I'm looking for the Qs to start working its way back here, but you have to be quick here and you got to be a little bit nimble. So just be willing to be getting out. It's what's helped me there. It's what helped me in Tesla. This is kind of the area where I got back in, where I first got back in, right over here. You guys can see the click back in, 500 shares, 1369, out at 1370. Let's see if it starts to recover that 1370 and then goes for the 14 move on TSLL. Back down to 1350s, and I'm hands off, right? But it would need to turn right here to get me excited.
Well, and it's funny because it's lining up, right? The market's it's either, and we won't know for a couple seconds, it's either rejecting from that level, which you can see how important that level that we drew in the pre-market is, or it's just basing under it and it's building up strength under that level. So if we reject, and I think it's one of those where we mark whether or not this is a rejection or not just by looking at the pre-market low, or this low right here of this wick, right? That was a news driven wick, so we had a spike down and then buyers came in. If we spend too much time under that wick, then it looks like maybe some continued bearish action. If we can end up breaking up through, then that's something that's potentially bullish. TRNR, I just have this on the corner of my screen just because it continues. There's another blue arrow for another short right there. So this could be one that's interesting, right? Go flush to $2 wouldn't surprise me on this name today, which would be an insane risk reward from here. Just can't, right? Done for the day, but I just couldn't give myself to trade any of these crazy things. One thing I'm noticing quite a bit myself personally, do better with the larger, more liquid names, especially because I'm just trying to get in and get a couple bucks and get out. Even though ASTS isn't the most liquid name, but I mean, in comparison to these really junky type stocks. So, but yeah, to me, it kind of feels like we're building up here. We're building up some strength. We're building up some power under this zone. I think, again, a very simple trade that I'm debating on, just taking myself either in one of my real accounts or in a paper account, is just a purchase here with a stop a little bit under this wick, enough to give kind of liquidity grab and go, and then just to see, right? Because if that's the low of the day, which it kind of felt like low of the day type action, we could get back through 593, and then we could get back potentially even higher, because that could have just been one of those, we're going to sweep the low of the day to get some people into things, and then we're gonna pop higher from there.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ethereum as an opportunity long term right now off of this pullback. The reason why is, of course, if we are going to get these reserves, I still see a nice potential positive catalyst presenting itself at some point, right? Just because the mention of the reserve doesn't mean it's actually been done, right? And things like that. So I think you watch that to see what happens there. But I'm thinking that these hourly long pullbacks, like you're seeing in ETHU, are going to be opportunities for the bigger investors to come in. That's why I looked at the daily volume and things like that. So I'm even looking at options here. And that's when you know that I want to make some money, because I never look at options, guys. So I left it alone right now, but it's something that I'm definitely thinking about in the long term for you swing traders, you position traders. I think it's something to think about here. Trying to use this wash to give you a good discount on those Bitcoin names, right? That's just the way I think about it.
Well, and one thing that we'll talk to our buds at the Fivers, I'm sure, about at some point, is you can trade Ethereum and Bitcoin over there with the Fivers. So it could be something that if you're interested in trading the actual instrument, that's a good way to do it. It's one of those, I okay doing the ETFs just because I'm very long-term focused on crypto, but it's kind of worrisome to trade the ETFs when kind of one tweet in the middle of the night can either rip things a bunch or tank them entirely. So, yeah, it's exploring, like you guys will hear me talk about once I get one strategy that ends up passing an account.
Long
The
TSL.
the next thing to do is just find another strategy, right? So that's what I'm interested in doing a little bit more of. The SPY, again, just chopping around in this range. I'm kind of talking myself in more and more of just taking that shot and saying, okay, we're gonna buy it here, we're gonna risk the low of the day, and then if things recover and we end up ripping through the high of the day today, that's fantastic. That might be just a little bit of a trade to make, just because it's pretty
Long
simple one.
Intel. This is what I wanted to see, guys. So instant gratification on that Intel play is what I'm trying to see here.
So yeah, I think again that trade becomes pretty simple, right? If we're going to break through these highs, probably going to happen pretty quickly, and right, we could end up seeing high of the day, if not more. If we're going to fail here, then that's going to happen pretty quickly as well. So this could be one for TQQQ, which again is something that I'm thinking of. I am not the most confident in the world, but I'm pretty confident that my AVWAP strategy is going to pass one of these accounts at one point. So the idea is to then just think of the next strategy, right? And always be focused on what am I going to do to add to that strategy, right? Because I want to build a basket of strategies and then systematize those or automate those in the best way that I can. And that's going to take time. So even though you guys saw that I hit that ASTS and then was done for the day there, again, it doesn't mean you're done working. It just means you're done trading. So now I'm thinking about these as well, right? So TSLL is going to be kind of the same as TQQQ, where you can see both of them popping here as well. So the Qs are moving, and then the SPY, it looks like it's trying to get back above, but it's right at that 593 again. So we really need to see a big push through that level in order to get involved there.
Looking really good on that TSLL, guys. I took the shots there, and you guys knew the levels there. And look at that. Now looking really good. Going towards that 14. Look at the Q's reaction there. A little part of me also said at this moment, the day traders have left the scene, and now they can start to take it. So now I'm going to look for just continued upside here. There it is, guys. Now towards the 14s. Through the 14s, I can take some profits on here on TSLL. And then look at Intel. Intel, I liked how it did this liquidity trap right before this. Now I can start to hold break even, giving myself another opportunity to make another 200, 300 bucks there. So we'll see what happens there. Can also hold on and just make sure that I take at least some gains, like 50 bucks off the 24.33s. But I'm just going to hold break even now. Look to see if I got the right buy opportunity here. So don't put risk on because TSLL is so big in the green here, but giving myself the shot to make another winner on top of it. All right, now here's TSLL. I'm going to look for a break of 14, sell some there, and then keep the remainder here. Let's see what happens.
Qs are getting close to VWAP, I believe here. Let me take a look here. Yeah, their VWAP is about a point above. So that's close-ish for the Qs, but we're continuing to push up there. This feels like one of those, how we talked about when the buyers realize that they missed the dip, they're going to have to kind of come in quick.
Yeah.
Feels like one of those moments, right? It could not be, but it certainly feels like that's something that could happen here. So
sold some there. You guys watch me click it right there. And there's a reason why I talked about it above 14s. I wanted to take some profits. That just gives me the ability to stay in control here and let the position work now. Hands off, stops at break even. And just if it's a momentum move, right, like we talked about, where they're not going to let me back in, well, guess what? At this point, they can try to take it. Try to see if they take it.
The Qs are coming to that VWAP. I think the question is, how much do we back off from that VWAP price right here? Ideally, for the bulls, obviously, we want to see it not care at all and just smash right through. That's the idea behind those trades, where the idea behind my VWAP fades as well, right? You're looking to have that happen quickly. You're looking to have a lot of stops potentially on the other side, and then those stops to be completely washed out and taken. And, that's hopefully what we're going to see. Now, if we look at the SPY, SPY is actually looking a little bit stronger here, just off of that low. If we just look relative to VWAP, it's a little bit closer. But again, Papa Dow continues to be the winner because, of course, it is, right? It's Papa Dow.
All right, guys, you guys know how I'm all about the sectors and the industries. Look at the difference here that's happened now, right? So I'm going to go towards my TC charts here to show you guys it. So look at the difference here, guys. And Intel just cut me out. I'm okay with that, right? Just not going to give up gains and just keep pushing on the ones that are giving me gains. That's what I'm trying to do with Tesla here. So one of the things that I'll tell you guys is look how the change from the open on technology is down almost a full percent, but in the last 15 minutes, it's up 0.4. This is a nice big shift of what we saw at the open, right? And so what was up big is now actually barely doing anything. Communication services, now that's not doing anything. And defensive actually in the red now, pulling back. So I think this is where you get both plays, right? Either growth to the upside or defensive bounces back and growth gets hit. So there's always two trades, but I want to show you guys that because right now I'm seeing that technology come back. I'm seeing those basic materials names come back. So maybe taking a look into those plays to see what's doing well today. Silver and gold doing well. Maybe they continue to do well. Copper doing well on this push. That's one name that we got to continue to watch because of the action that's been going on. FCX could be one to watch. But like Trader Prad said, let me in, let me in. I don't know if they'll let you in now, man.
I don't know if they're letting you in at all here.
Watching Tesla here overall, right? Not TSLL, but just watching Tesla now to see if we can get that push. And we'll see what happens there. Intel, it just keeps chopping around, guys. I think it's still a good looking trade, but might just be going too big, too fast on it. So we'll see what happens. If it really gains the VWAP, that's really what needs to happen here to start showing that move back.
Same with the Qs, right? If we go over here and look at the SPY and the Qs, we're hanging out right below it, consolidating action. To me, this is just still overall bullish type action. It's not, showing us that it's a big move one way or the other. It's just hanging out right under VWAP. So a push through VWAP could be very interesting. A lot of these other names are PLTR, right? Everything looks like it's bouncing right back at VWAP. NVDA, relatively weak there. That's interesting. TSLA, relatively strong. So it looks like you picked one of the good ones there with Tesla. And that's the kind of thing that I think makes sense to do is if you have a list, go through them, see which ones are doing well, because the Qs are hitting VWAP here. So the underperformance in NVIDIA is very interesting, considering the Qs look like they're great. If we go to the daily chart, this is really what I was talking about, why this would be so bullish if that was the low. And we still don't know, obviously, a lot of day left, but it means they just came in, they pulled into yesterday's action, they found buyers at yesterday's action, and now they're pushing it higher. So that's, again, a perfect what we want to see as bullish people that want the market to go up. That's exactly, you don't want necessarily a gap and rip. Sometimes those can cause some weakness because there's not that price discovery. But you've had that price discovery. They came in and they said, okay, are people going to be excited for that pullback? Or are they going to be scared? Looks like right now everyone's excited to get a little bit of a pullback that they can buy into.
Yeah, I'm back in here on the Intel there, guys. It just went I went down in the size, right? So to give myself the ability to still stay in the trade, look for the bigger trade here, but to give myself a little bit of room and then to let it kind of work here. I am up for like 514, so I'm higher than where I started. So I'm giving myself the ability to risk a little bit of that here. We'll see what happens there. Now starting to lift off of that. Going to push it, see what happens here in Intel. Now that it's back at the VWAP, I would like to see it hold that 2440s and then really start to push back here. 25 first target there. But if you look in the hourly, we could go back there towards above 25, pre-market high of 25.50.
Ooh, that'd be a good one. But yeah, and it's just what we've talked about before, and the whole premise behind my initial strategy is that the VWAP bounce trade is something that's taught in kind of every textbook. Come down to VWAP, you look for it to hold, you participate in a bounce higher. So that's great. And that's a strategy that can still work. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what if you don't hold VWAP, right? What happens is you're going to have everybody who's shorting these, all of the whole market, right? The SPYs, the Qs, everything is popping into its VWAP here. You got to say, okay, well, there's two sides of the coin. There's going to be a bunch of people like right here on the Qs that are shorting into this VWAP. And if those people end up getting washed out, then that's going to just be more fuel to push us higher on the day. And then if we get anywhere near highs today, I think this thing could turn green and rip, just because it shows that things are, dips are getting bought, right? And as long as dips are getting bought, that's what people want to see in order to get involved as well, right?
All right, now TSLL now to 1420s. Let's see if Tesla can go on a rip. And we all know how when Tesla actually rips, it can get the bounce. And one of the things that I started seeing on the daily on Tesla that we've talked about here way before it happened, guys. And sometimes it's not to toot my horn or whatever. It's more to say that these are the type of moves that you got to look for on the bear side and then on the bull side, because I talked about it when it was at like 373, how I felt 300 was more likely than 400. That was putting the odds against me, right? We're talking maybe 28 points or something like that, right? So at this point, what did I talk about when I was looking for that down move? It was to go towards that EMA, the 200 EMA. And the SMA is right around 300. So they're all looking at that 200. I think the bigger investors. And now they're starting to think, can Tesla make a bounce from here? I think that you got to watch, of course, Friday's action, right? Which the high is 294, but that's exactly around the action that we kind of held here, right? And so I think I continue to watch that Friday's action, right? Around the 294 close. Look how we undercut that and came right back above. That's why I watch these hourlies a lot of the times, especially on trend changing type of moves, because everyone that watched Tesla on the 1 minute today was probably thinking, oh no, this is Tesla going down, collapse again. And then now they get caught on this reversal. They are stopping out while the bulls are getting in on deeper time frames. And what did we get at that bottom of the 293, 294 area? A nice liquidity grab right here where it went to 291 and threw that support and came back. I'm looking more and more for these liquidity grabs, man. And I think that's exactly what that Tesla move right here was, right? Washed out traders, got them scared. Next thing you know, has Tesla been going up since then? Yeah. So we got to look for more of these.
Well, and yeah, absolutely. Right. I think you could build, that's the idea I'm starting to have on my next strategy. If this one does what it needs to in order to pass an account, that's my idea for the next one. Cause and it kind of was inspired by, shout out to our interview with Anne-Marie. If you missed it, right, you can go check that out on the channel. That's what she said a couple times during that interview. She said, just try to find where they're trapped. Right. And right now, I think there's a lot of people in the market trapped short because they were trying to fade the gap down. That opening drive looked really, really ugly and was looking like it was flushing things. So, quote unquote, they look to be trapped short. And I like that premise because it's completely different from what I'm doing from a swing side of things. Because what I'm doing from a swing side of things is saying, I want to find the thing that everybody else is interested in buying, and I want to own that with them until people are not interested in owning it anymore. I'm trying to join the crowd when it comes to things like trend following. When you're day trading, you want to kind of go against the crowd because what you want is a whole bunch of stops to get triggered or a whole bunch of people to FOMO into something, because as soon as that happens, then or FOMO out, I guess. As soon as that happens, then you're able to take that quick money and put it in your pocket and move on. So again, this is the journey that you guys are watching me go on anyway, adapting from someone who does something well on the swing trading side of things and then moving that to the day trading side of things. That looks, I got to rewire my brain and say, I'm looking for a different goal. I'm not looking to buy something and hold it for the next 6 months. I'm looking to get in, take a couple bucks, get out, and then kind of move on with my day.
Big rejection move there on the Qs off that 510. So just be careful for moves back down. I think testing towards 507 here, 508. Just watching the Qs, it could not get over that 510 area. And I think that's an important area. What is that area that I'm looking at there is also around this 508.70s. We started to recover Friday's kind of resistance area where we got that big push. It closed at 508.21. So looking to see if we can reclaim those levels there. Cut out in different trades there, guys. So I will tell you guys that cut out there on a couple of trades there. So cut out on my TSLL took another $50 there. So paid myself 130 on that trade. Not bad at all. Still in Intel, but I am break even on Intel. So I'm not going to stress about it here. It could get cut out right underneath it right now. But this is one of those trades where I'd rather get cut out repetitively than just keep putting risk on. So each time that I'm getting into the green and getting that nice move up, I'm just riding that stop break even. Why? Because I'm just protecting my gains too, right? I mean, that's another thing here. I'm up 565 on the day. So trying to be smart. I can keep trading, but why risk, right? And so if I catch the move with momentum, I'll ride it. I can give myself like a penny here when it's like right there, because you could see it trying to trap me and get me out right on my break even. So I can give myself a penny or two. That's fine too, but not real risk, right? Now, essentially no real risk in this trade now, and looking for it to continue the trend or turn against me, cut me out, protect my gains. 565 on the day. Let's keep working, guys.
And yeah, that's going to move a lot with what's going to happen in the queues, right? So we were hoping for a massive push through VWAP real quick. Didn't get that. We're just flirting, but no real danger here yet, right? Just flirting back and forth. Levels that I'd watch now would just be, and if we go to the SPY, it'll be easier. So you can see we broke that. You can see how important I drew this line real early, right? It was this low right here. I drew it in the pre-market just to show you guys how important that was on the way back up. So now I just think this area here should hold support. So just doing the paper trade I took where, right, I was looking for a breakthrough there. The stop went the low of the day. I'd probably raise my stop up to kind of this area right now and just say, okay, if we break significantly and close a couple candles below 593, then I think it's time to go. But it's one of those times where I think it makes sense to sort the market. And couple interesting things, right? The Dow is leading the day, which is not interesting in kind of a choppier type day, but the Qs are next. So showing a lot of strength in the Qs. I think a lot of that is Tesla. So I think, Mitch, you nailed the thing that everybody is watching right now with that massive Tesla move. And then when it comes to some of these other sectors, right, we have steel, although that's pretty illiquid. So we got to make sure. And WGMI is looking the same kind of thing, bounce, and now it's holding. So these Bitcoin miners might be something interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm watching them, but one of the things that I'm not seeing is the strength come back to, like, let's say a low float name like BTCT, names like that. Just tell me more and more that it's just not yet. And so it doesn't mean that it's not coming, but it's not yet. And so not yet means just to wait on the sideline. It's okay to wait on the sideline here. I think that you might need to wait for one more scare on the Qs, and we're getting that right now. And so there it is. That's why I kept triggering out on the break even, because the Qs could always make this move down to the range, and it hadn't really gotten back, right? It was just starting the momentum back. Now this kind of wick candle or this hard candle down, it just triggers a bunch of stops, right? And so that's where you got to be able to protect yourself if you're trying to catch trend changes, and understanding that sometimes you need to let it go and know that maybe you got a good setup, but the timing is a little off. So cutting out of Intel there, I'm fine, man. I set up good setups there looking for the bigger move. We didn't get it. So that's okay too. The key, move the profits up, right? Move the profits up, right? Throughout all that trading there, where I took like 3 or 4 trades there because I took a lot of tickers. Well, a lot of tickets doesn't mean much if we can just continue moving in the green. So 23 tickets today, just to kind of put it in perspective.
Well, that's one of those, just looking at that trading, right? I zoomed in to see the chart, but just looking at the entries and exit, that seems like, again, what my mentor always taught me about staying alive until you get lucky, right? You're looking for a rip there. Didn't happen, but you were able just to stay alive on that name, not lose any money, just kind of wait. And that puts you in a good place mentally to say, okay, well, now I can take, continue to take trades. I can continue to swing the bats.
Boom.
Yeah, it looks like we're going again, right? Just staying alive till you get lucky.
Staying alive. And TSLL has been doing well. And it has been that 1370 rejection. Remember when it came back and I told you guys, well, can it hold the 1360 here? And it held it really well, and then came right back to the 1370s. That's when I got in, right? So This one for me would be 14, and then holding off like pullbacks at 1380s, 1390s at that point. But we'll see what happens. I think the Q's still a little trappy, but this is the moment where the algos start to kick in and they could keep a trend, right? So I'm watching for that action. One thing that I'm also seeing, just to bring some other charts into this, XLF holding still really well. So I'll give you guys it on a deeper time frame here. But the 30-minute chart, 30-minute drip, caught Friday's kind of high action, right? Now reclaiming. JPM looking well on my playbook. I was looking for these financials, right? What would they do today? Bank of America, Morgan Stanley. These are the names that I'm looking at, guys. Goldman Sachs, right? So we'll see if they can continue going higher. And then I said, take a look at maybe one of the retail names to see if it gets hot today. Not saying that I'm necessarily trading it, but like a SoFi. I saw a ticker this morning and it got my attention, which was SoFix or SOFX. A little leverage SoFi.
Why not?
Why not, right, Michael?
Right? Just 10 times leverage everything. That's never been bad for the
Where's
market.
the leverage? Where's the leverage? We just might call this the Bahamas market pretty soon.
I need to start an ETF, and I'm just going to call it "What Could Go Wrong," and I'm going to buy all of these leveraged ETFs in it, and then my investors are either going to get dumb rich, or I'll just continue.
I'm just waiting for the 5x leverage ones to come out because they got the 3x.
I thought there was.
What's 5x leverage, guys? You guys got some tickers out there with that? But here's the Qs kind of hanging in there, man. They're hanging.
Yeah, that looked a little bit flushy to me there. So I'm going back. Let's look at the SPY here. So again, the same line. Haven't moved the line, right? That 593 came in flush there. Buyers came in right away to push that name up. So it feels to me that this is a bullish day, right? It feels to me that everything that could have happened, the Bears had all the opportunity in the world on this push down to flush everything, and then it just came to buy back in. So I'm as you call it on the streets, just seeing, because I heard a little birdie this morning when I was on another network talk about some sort of Trump announcement about investment stuff. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, he's saying big news coming tomorrow, but I'd keep an eye on it, right? And when that happens, I think one of the things that can happen easily, right? It's like I told you guys, the washout at the open was about the max pain. Looks like the max pain was still on the bulls trying to break that buy the dip mentality. I think that action this morning, especially off of that Bitcoin euphoria, probably created that mentality, guys. Taking a shot back into Intel here, guys. So I'm back in Intel here. 200 shares, nothing crazy. Like I told you, I'm going to be willing to get back into these names as long as the trend can continue. We did not cut the VWAP there, so that's a good sign for me. Now I can get it back in it and do what? Well, I'm right there, guys. I can do a really close risk and look to see if this can continue to run. If I do get the run, I say it gets over 25. So that gives me the nice risk to return here. I'm going to keep taking the shot here. We'll see if the Qs can take the high. 510s, big level for me to see the Qs get back through. Look at XLF also, just to mention. That's leading action right now. I don't know if you see that, Michael, but good looking chart there.
Yeah, and this is, again, you don't have to be too, I get the question all the time, right? Hey, Mike, you're railing on about relative strength and how it's the most important thing in the market, but people are looking for fancy ways to do it. I don't think you need to, right? So Mitch was talking about, on the daily chart, XLF is doing great. And I talked about this in the pre-market, how it was looking amazing right here, and then it's looking like it's kind of budding out right here. Now on the intraday chart, how do we know this is relatively strong in the market? Well, just look at the distance from where we are now and the high of the day, and then look at the Qs and the distance we are from the high of the day, right? Just pick any point as your reference point, and that's where relative strength and weakness can come in, right? In this example, I'm using the high of the day. You could also use VWAP, right? Qs are still battling kind of back and forth, chopping around VWAP. XLF well above VWAP, right? It's held above it for a long time and then ripped through. So it's one of those things where you don't have to be fancy about your relative strength and relative weakness. You just got to take a look at what's happening here. So this nice push up on XLF could be interesting, right? I noticed for my swing trades, I entered in a lot this morning on KIE. A lot of insurance type names were coming up. They're very boring, but on the weekend, right, I run my systems and they tell me what to buy. I put out my orders and I kind of walk away from the swing trading side of things, and yeah, it's looking great.
Yeah, I missed that TSLL break of 14 there. Looking to see if I get the pullback, but not getting it just yet. If I get in now, I have to risk off the 14 spot. So I'm trying to risk off of the 1390s where the VWAP's at, but just need a little bit of a dip there. I might not get it, right? And sometimes you just don't get it, right? But I'm looking to see what also happens in the Qs. Look how it's approaching fast above towards the 509.50s here. I'm looking to see if it can run past the 510s, really start reclaiming the action this morning. And then the important level for me is going to be more 513. So I think if we can get through this 510, it's an important level to watch for to see what happens.
Yeah, so this KIE says insurance, right? That's doing well. I think anything that benefits from different interest rate environments, right? And again, TNX, you can take a look at in trading view. I think this is, I don't know how they do this. They actually pull the data from the CBOE. So this is a bit of a futures contract, but this is showing you what interest rates are, right? So the interest rate that the Fed can control, the 10-year rate, and still coming down here. So it's showing that even with this worriness about the market, we're still getting this move when it comes to interest rates that are coming down. So now you got to think about, right, places that like lower interest rates. I think especially smaller banks. So insurance companies, definitely, because they're just the way their business model works, right? They're borrowing money to pay insurance policies and all that kind of stuff. So they like low interest rates. But I'd also think as a KRE, these are it's an interesting sector that I'm going to start taking a look at, because we have financials. XLF is the big guy. Financials, the big boys, the Goldman Sachs, the Morgan Stanleys, the JP Morgans, all that. KRE is your little guys, and these have been under fire for a while. This is down here is, remember, no, not 2020, in 2023 when they were all going bankrupt, they pulled in, and now they're getting on a longer term chart closer to those highs. But even the last couple of days, nice sell off, consolidation for a couple of days, a little bit of a push up. So these are those. This is a weird thing for a Canadian, because we don't have, like you guys have, which is 1,000 small banks spread throughout the country. We got 6 banks. They're all huge. But for you guys, this is interesting. So this is one of those times where you go and you Google what's in the KRE and you start to rank it. I don't know any of the names of the banks, but there are a lot of those, again, smaller banks that you'd find in small towns.
Yeah, I have a good ability to do that, at least just from I'll do it for you guys with capitalization in the KRE. So you got your TFC, you got MTB, HBAN, RF is another known one. Citizens Financials, but TFC would be your biggest. That's 60 billion in capitalization. MTB around 31 billion. So those are kind of your smaller names there to kind of keep your eyes on. And then there's like names that like are just known, right? They're kind of be names that you can look at. So I'm looking through there to see what's standing out to me, at least on the day. Let's go to what's actually up big on the day there. Bank of Hawaii, but that doesn't make sense there. There's not much you can jump off of that. Yeah, I'm looking through there. There's not too many trends that I'm seeing there. I'm seeing some Hawaiian names multiple times, but we'll see what happens there, guys. Cut out of the Intel. Cut out of Intel again, guys.
So. Right, so let's just go back to the SPY to show this is why, right, that opening range trade is very interesting, and there's some frustration that can certainly happen after that, because we're above VWAP, we're below VWAP, we're above VWAP. This might just be this could be the day. This could be how the day ends up, where, right, we had the gap up, and then we had the flush, and then we had the rally, and now we just have this kind of fight back and forth, and then we see what happens come the end of the day. But this flush is looking a little bit gross here. So we'll see. Again, this 593 area, I think, is the most important. This is the this, again, drew this on the pre-market. It was just this post-market low right here that we struggled and we got above. So we're hanging out at the zone. So it'll be interesting to see. Last time we dipped like this, buyers came in strong. So we need to see that happen again. If we don't see that big buyer step back in, then that might be it. We might start to flush down a little bit here. So let's see.
Yeah, you could take a look at some defensive names, maybe if you're trying to catch something, if you think this is coming down, right? So names in that space that you can look at, Costco, Walmart, Procter Gamble, Clorox, we talked about today. But that's if you think the market's coming back down, right? Those could be names where you could see some shift go to. One thing that tells me that it's just not yet also is I'm thinking that, well, I'm watching, of course, Tesla. I'm still watching that to see if it can recover 14 here. But I'm watching also like BTCT, and that's telling me more and more. The Bitcoin names just can't get it going right here. But I think at some point, I'll be watching for BTCT to make a spike to 5, telling me that now is the time, right? And so things like that I use as like just indicators overall. I know that names are watching this because it's the most traded name in Bitcoin, right? And so that tells me more and more. Why? It's low float. They can really move it if they want to. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. Nothing that I want to trade right now. And it was kind of like I talked about. I felt like this name would pull back out the gates. To think that I made money on BTCT today and really well, like really good money on that name, just goes to show me that at least I was really good on my execution today, which was make some money in the pre-market and then get the heck out before the open there. And that's exactly what happened on that name.
Well, and I think if you look at the crypto itself, it's funny, people, not to anger any of the crypto guys out there, right? The people saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's this thing that's gonna, it's changing the world. It's digital gold. It's blah blah blah." If I were to blindfold you and say this, and then we look at the cues, it's like the same chart, right? It's going to move with the cues. So it is a risk type asset, and it's moving with other risk type assets. So yeah, I think it's one of those. That's why I said before I would do anything with the miners, I'd have this in the bottom, right? We came all the way back down to 89,000. That's this level right here. But you can see this is looking pretty much minus the 24-hour action. It's looking just like the Qs are, where it had a big push down off the open, and now it looks like it's putting in a little bit of a bottoming tail. It's holding this breakout zone. So I'm looking, you could grab a 30-minute or something. If this starts to recover and push higher, we get above that 93,000 or so. Then I think the Bitcoin miners start to get a little bit more interesting. So until then, who knows? Right? It's just kind of chopping in the range, just like the Qs. Right? If we go look at the Qs, we go to a 2-minute chart here. Right? Above, below VWAP, nothing really too much is happening. It's just kind of consolidating in this range. It's holding this level. Same with the SPY is holding that 593. It's just needs to make up its
Taking my
mind.
shot here, guys. TSLL. Let's see if we can get it here. Watching the Qs prop up off that 508. I'm going to watch off that 508 to see if it holds here. TSLL taking a shot here off the 1390s. This is what I call a heat check, right? Heat check means essentially I've been doing really well. Let's see if I can keep it hot here. If not, I'll call it a day here. So 1388 is going to be the risk here. I'm going to actually establish it. A lot of times you guys don't see me show my hand, right? What I talk about it on that is I don't show the stop there. But in this case, I think it could either just go or not go. So in this case, I'm either want protection on, or it starts to get in the green, and then I can raise that protection to break even on a pop, let's say back to 1410s, 1420s. So now I can start looking for that bigger move that I've been looking for. And there's no reason why not to take the Intel again, right? I've been protecting myself with it, but now I'm going to take it, and now I'm going to hold off another risk here. Another one that is I can do smaller size and just look to see if it works. I can risk here maybe $22, a little bit of a heat check, see if it just goes. Goes is what I'm looking for here. And the Qs would need to just keep going, right? Like essentially just go straight to the high here, break it, and keep pushing. That's what I'll be looking for into the like the lunch hour here. We'll see what happens there. BTCT would be one that I'd keep an eye out to see if I get that pop to 5. That's going to do it at least in the action there. Now I can just go ahead and take those trades and see what happens here. See if we're able to work it out and get the move here.
So there's your TRNR again. I see it come through the breakdown alert. So this seems like one of those. If I was a betting man, I'd say at some point today when no one's watching and all the gurus are done trading it, this thing flushes. The only reason I keep looking at it is you can see, oh, it just popped away, but just keeps coming up on the alerts over and over again for names that are right. They're flushing in through here. Right, so you can see a flush and a flush and a flush. Other than that, there hasn't been too much. Right, I had ASTS off the open. That was a great little trade. Moved on with my day after that. Could have gotten way more, obviously, but yeah, TRNR. This one continues to be a bit wonky. And then we take a look at the SPY here again, just flirting in the Qs, flirting with VWAP, and just back and forth, up and down. Can't really make a move one way or the other. Got a question on BABA on China tariffs. I think China tariffs are priced in, right? And no one's surprised that there's going to be tariffs. Right? If he announces tariffs, I don't think anyone's going to be shocked. Like, it's been the whole thing that everyone in the world is talking about for a long time. So I'm still in BABA. I bought a bunch around 90. To me, this is just consolidation right here. Same with FXI, right? Just consolidating. So I think the FXI kind of paints the picture, because this was the high after the Chinese government just threw everything at the wall, right? And just gave people a bunch of money and lowered interest rates and everything they could to get their economy going. A lot of time under it. Now we're back to that zone. This digestion is exactly what you want to see, right? You want to see when you hit a level is not a dramatic pullback. You want to see consolidation at that level. If it can get through there, then BABA and everything will be fine. But again, all the caveats with China. Tomorrow this company could just vanish from the stock exchanges. So just be careful, right? I always size down, which I think has actually helped me hold this for a big winner. When it comes to a lot of the things that I would trade, I'd probably be in them out of them quicker, just because of the massive move I've gotten from the 90s up to the 150s. But because it's a smaller position, the day-to-day fluctuations is less of an effect on my portfolio, so it allows me to kind of hold on a little bit better. So it ends up being a really good dollar winner, even though it didn't take too much to begin with, because I treat China like I treat biotechs, in which one news event could rip this thing 10% or it could drop it 10%. Even for one of the large caps in China, they just move so crazy.
All right, guys, cut out there on both of those trades. The heat check on and heat check turned down, and that's what you can do sometimes, and that's just how it goes. I mean, I was pushing it. There, I finally take my step back, right? I got towards like almost 600 there. Not a bad day, 479. I'm going to call it quits, right? Like, I can keep trading, but you also got to know when the heat check kind of hits, right? Take a look at the tickets today, guys. I'll try to pick this as big as I can here so that you guys can see all the tickets. 29 tickets, guys. Started it off the right way, trying to build that cushion, right? Then ran into a red trade, right back into the green with the TSLL, making cash on TSLL today. Intel was the one that I kept being break even. But even when I lost, I only gave up about 23 and 17 on that. Not bad at all for this account, right? And so same thing for TSLL. When I finally lost, I lost 52 compared to the wins that I was doing, about 130, about 90, right? So still not bad there on the profit to loss ratio. And you guys see me do a lot of tickets today on this one. Why? Because I felt I was in the zone. And this is very important to understand when you're in the zone and when you're not in the zone, guys. So take a look at this, right? There's going to be certain times where you feel like your strategy is just working and you're seeing the market clearly. This is what I call being in the zone. Of course, I took this from Mark Douglas, but I think it's so important to take a look into trading like this, especially day trading, because I feel like it's more kind of prudent towards day trading that you stay in the zone, right? Swing trading, there's so much in between time that I really don't think you can stay in the zone. The key for trading in the zone and swing trading for me is more just making sure that rotation's not going against you, because that can easily ruin a bunch of gains really quickly. At least from my experience doing swing trading. And what I would say in day trading, it's more important that you're in the zone. There's going to be days where you're just not, your head's not in the game. You're not seeing things clearly. It could be because your personal life situation, right? It could be a whole tons of things. But the faster that you catch this as a day trader, the better you're going to be, because there's moments when you are focused. There's moments when you can see clearly and your strategy is working. That's when I talk about the gas and the brake pedal. Today was one of those days I was gassing it, man. But one thing that you also saw me doing at the end there is I kept going like maybe like 500 shares on TSLL, and then it ended up turning into being smaller and smaller sizing. And on that Intel, I went even down. I started with like 500 and went down to 200. Also knowing when the getting good and looking for a bigger move. When we're looking for bigger moves, we sometimes need to tighten down a little bit. And that's what I felt I did well. Gave myself the chance to go into like, let's say 1,000 in the green today, but I'll take what I can get. Did a little bit of a heat check the same way a basketball player would do. He's made 5 shots in a row. Guess what? When he's coming down that court, he's going to go find out if he's going to make the 6th, 7th, or 8th, right? And once he misses, he reassess, right? Then he calms himself down and focuses. Same way we need to do as traders. We're going to sometimes ride a high. We need to calm down and check ourselves, but also be able to hit that gas pedal. That's what really good day traders do. They find a day like today, and they probably stay in the market. Like, if I could stay all day, I'd watch the cues to see if it breaks 510. That's just what I'd watch all day now. And I'd put this on like an hourly, and I'd just wait for that move to trigger off that 510 on the cues to then tell me to come back to trading to the bullish side, right? Yep. And so we'll see what happens today. Michael, any levels for you before we get out of here?
No, I think you nailed it, right? I think we just look at, I think the low of the day is very important, right? We had a big flush out, right? I think if we end up breaking those lows and trading lower, probably lights out. And then, yeah, I'm with you on the 510, which again, that 30-minute high. Through that, maybe we take a shot at highs, right? Maybe we even further, who knows? Are getting a pretty nice bounce there, but that does seem to be the move. It's just right now we had the flush down and then the flush higher, and so the bears and the bulls are fighting. We got to have one resolve one way or the other. Maybe doesn't have to be today, could be tomorrow at this point.
All right, and last thing we'll leave you off with, guys, I did want to tell you guys about an event that we're going to be doing, and it's not necessarily us, but I want to give you guys the insight on it, and that's all about the Fivers, guys. So I want you guys to check this out, and this is going to be a trade management marathon where I think you guys could learn, even if you only trade stocks, right? So definitely check it out, guys. It's going to be really good. I mean, 6 sessions, guys, 8 experts, 6 live hours, March 11th. If you guys click that right there, you can sign up already. I put the link in the chat there, so definitely hit that link so you can open this up and take a look at the agenda that we got, right? Michael Katz. I think I know that guy. Of course, CEO Trade the Pool will be on there. We got a lot of great traders, and I'll tell you guys, take a look at Jonathan. Jonathan's really awesome in risk management, really transparent trader from the Fivers, just like myself, right? And I think that that's the important thing, is learning from traders that can show you that it ain't going to be easy, but they'll show you the realness of trading, right? So go check that out, guys. Hit the link in the chat right there. We'll keep it going with you guys, but that's going to do it for us. Like always, guys, keep staying at it in the market. That's it for us today, and not a bad day for me. Battled in the funded account. Took a little bit of a hit, other account eval going higher. And the only thing you can do as a trader, stay focused, handle what you can control, and come back another day. That's the way the name of the game goes. I'll see you tomorrow, Michael, and I'll see you guys tomorrow also. Hit the like on your way out.